Moe Factz with Adam Curry for December 30th, 2022, episode number 88. We're waving goodbye to 2022 and welcoming the new year with fresh facts. I'm Adam Curry coming to you from the heart of the Texas Hill Country. Time once again to spin the wheel of topics from here to Northern Virginia. Please say hello to my friend on the other end. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Moe Factz.
How you doing, Adam?
I am doing good. I'm loving the band, man. I'm a big fan of high school and college bands. Did you know that?
I did not know that, but this is the Sonic Boom of the South, Jackson State University.
This, I don't know exactly when it gripped me, but I think I was like 15 or 16. I was growing up in the Netherlands, and I heard my first like drum cadence, and I was like, oh, I love this. And then I remember in 1970, all right, this is going to blow you away, like maybe 1978 or, no, wait, what was the bicentennial? 76. We went back to, we came on vacation from the Netherlands to the States. And so it was the big bicentennial celebration, 200 years of America. And the two things I really loved was watching the drill team, the drill team march and then throwing the rifles back and forth while the drill sergeant walks in between. But then I heard this band, and they did the theme from Entertainment Tonight. And I was like, oh, my God, that's... And they were jamming around like, oh, man, I've listened to them often ever since. I'm so appreciative of that.
I did not know that, but that's a
it's a little
great that you enjoy. No, it's great because according to this show, what the top is going to be, and you're going to spin the wheel in a second, the band is the star of the show. So,
excellent.
So we're going to start somewhere. We're going to end somewhere else, as we always do. So, if you want to go ahead and spin that wheel,
absolutely, I'm going to crank it up. It's so good to be back, to have Moe back, and we're going to spin that round and round. Where it stops, nobody knows. Moe's know, of course, because the topic for today, Moe Factz with Adam Curry, episode 88, is.
I think they'll get in here, but I don't know how long they'll live after they do get in here.
Okay, cryptic. Very cryptic.
All right, so where we're starting at is the Jerry Jones, the photo from the Washington Post, I don't know if you heard about that. It'd be odd if you didn't because you live in Texas. Yeah. And we're going to end up in with Prime Time, a.k.a. Coach Prime, Deion Sanders. And it's going to be an exciting trip. How we start there and where we're going to end it.
What's interesting is I know almost nothing about sports. So whatever you're talking about, I completely missed that. I'm sure it's some team owner or coach being racist. That's usually what these stories are about.
That's now, great guess.
Now, wait a minute. Now, Deion Sanders, did he not play for a New York team?
No, he played for Atlanta, then San Francisco, then Dallas, and then he bounced around to Washington Redskins, which hurts my stomach to say that. And I think he ended up in Baltimore. But he did play baseball in New York, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, because I met him. And I met him at the radio station at Z100.
Surprise.
Right? And I'm like, I knew he was playing for a New York team. This was in the maybe late 80s, 90s. Does that make sense?
He was one of those athletes that could play multiple sports. And we're going to hear more about that.
Golf, all of that stuff. Oh, okay, cool. All right. I'm ready for it.
Let's jump right into, as you accurately guessed, the takedown of Jerry Jones.
This is a fascinating piece of reporting that we're going to talk about now. We're going to start with this photo. It's from September 9, 1957, and it shows Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones among a crowd of white students trying to keep black students from integrating at an Arkansas high school. This is the Washington Post reporting. Reports that Jones, who was 14 at the time, could be seen standing a few yards from where the 6 black students were being jostled and repelled with snarling racial slurs by ringleaders of the mob. So joining us now, sports and feature columnist at the Washington Post, Sally Jenkins. Again, I have to commend you on your reporting. This whole thing is right. I mean, it's really stunning. It's fascinating. So let's start with the picture, okay, and then we'll talk about, how he could have sort of move diversity along with coaching in the NFL and in sports. Let's start with this photograph, though. What did you learn about this from this photograph?
Well, I think the first thing you learn is just how widespread the segregationists were in Little Rock and North Little Rock.
Wait a minute. This is from a photo from when he was 14?
Yes.
And the man is now, what, 85?
I believe so.
I love how, excellent work. Oh, yeah, you really dug up a doozy here, everybody. Okay.
Well, we're going to jump right into it because I got to lay out my theory of how this transpired, the timing of it, everything. This was a strategic attack on Jerry Jones. Now, for full disclosure, I'm careful with this word fan because I'm not a fanatic, but I don't like supporter or whatever you're saying, some goofy word like that.
Yeah.
I've been a Cowboys quote unquote fan since about 3 or 4 years old when my grandpa bought me a Dallas Cowboys trash can. And we would sit down and watch the games together, because I went to my grandparents on every weekend just about. So I was there watching football with him. So sports, as we're going to see throughout this episode, has a very weird relationship when it comes to race and
no kidding.
Sports ownership and all that thing. But back to my theory. This photo dropped from the Washington Post on Thanksgiving Day or around right before Thanksgiving, which everybody knows the Cowboys take center stage.
Yeah, exactly. Even I know that.
Right, because you're a media saying about media, and this Cowboys is America's team, and everybody sits around with a stomach full of turkey and watch or fall asleep while watching the Cowboys play. It's like it's an American tradition.
It is,
and
yes.
I don't know if you know this or not, the Dallas Cowboys is called America's team.
I knew that. I live in Texas. Of course, I know some things. Yes.
I want to make sure because I said I don't want to make.
No. Please keep asking me stuff like that because this is pretty much the only thing I know. My knowledge stops around here.
Well, I'm going to tell you about a takedown, which you know all about. Enter Bezos.
Oh, okay.
Bezos is trying to buy an NFL team. Right?
Oh, I didn't know that. I mean, it makes sense. That's what most billionaires seem to like to do, and I have no idea why. But okay.
And what costs? If you ever you saw Billions, right?
Yeah.
The scene in there where Axelrod tried to buy the NFL team.
Yeah.
He said this is American royalty. Owning a football team is like being knighted.
Yeah, I remember. Yes, I do remember that. And it's interesting because is that still that way? Is that really what the billionaires all think? That's interesting.
Of course.
It's interesting.
Of course, because now, what team was he trying to buy? They were saying that he was trying to buy the Washington Commanders, which used to be the Washington Redskins.
Formerly known as the Redskins. That was my parents' team, by the way. The Redskins were my parents' team.
Well, that's strange that you're a Redskins fan by inheritance, and I'm a Cowboys fan, which just adds another wrinkle to this show.
Little switcheroo there. Now that I'm in Texas, things are different. Yeah.
So going back, the reported story was he was trying to buy the Washington Commanders with Jay-Z.
Oh, okay.
As a part owner, which we know how that.
That's how you get the new stadium. Jay-Z gets his 0.3%. He pretends like he's an owner, and then
you do know sports,
and then we gentrify the whole place. Actually, I do know Ted Leonsis, who's the owner of what's the hockey team in Washington?
The Capitals.
The Capitals. So and I know this guy pretty well, and it is definitely a royalty thing. Now that I think about it, yeah.
Well, Snyder has been quoted as saying, I haven't, because they're trying to get Snyder out of there. They done this with the owner, Richardson, down in Carolina, which with the Me Too. So they've been trying to get Snyder out of there, but, he's had things with the cheerleaders. And this, like I said, I had to lay this all out so you can see it through the lens while I'm seeing it.
Yeah, that's why they get these teams. Cheerleaders. Of course, that makes sense.
So Snyder says, I got dirt on all the owners. Here comes Bezos' paper with a picture of Jerry Jones, because if Bezos is going to buy a team, trust me, it would rather be the Dallas Cowboys, which is the preeminent sports team of all teams, not just football, of all teams.
Yeah, if you want to be royalty, you might as well go straight to the top of the pack.
Right, and Jerry Jones is the king of the NFL. So I'm laying it all out and cool. how this quote unquote what I call an attack happened, but we got to understand the history behind why that photo was so triggering to some people, why it was used. You know, like I said, just find it funny that Jerry Jones actually sat down with the Washington Post voluntarily and did this whole, about black ownership in the NFL and, race and sports kind of thing. And they double cross him with this photo.
Jerry Jones's high school was North Little Rock, which was across the Arkansas River from Central High School, which is the school that got all of the attention when Eisenhower sent in federal troops to protect the Little Rock Nine at that school over there. But the segregationist agitators were actually very active on both sites. And the fact that we knew that generationally Jerry Jones had to have experienced the events in Little Rock more generally, but to find him in the photograph and to learn that he experienced one of those incidents right on the schoolhouse steps was pretty revelatory. We were blown away, to put it mildly.
Let me ask you about this picture just quickly here, because he's saying, I was just there. I wasn't participating. I was there just sort of to observe. But with the photograph, what you point out in your reporting is that in order to get where he was at the top of those stairs, that he had to get up there pretty quickly, and those were sort of the students that were keeping the black students from entering. Does this say anything about his participation? Are you making any sort of judgment about it, or?
All right, let me make a little judgment first. I'm looking at this picture. I'm looking at this picture. He looks like a doofus standing in the back, like, hey, what's going on here? He's not at the front. He's not. The guy at the front looks like a mean mofo.
Well, he was a younger player in high school, so that's one thing. But
I'm just saying that
it's not. Yeah, it's not important. The important thing is he's there in Arkansas in 1957. When you know what happened in 57 all across town at the other high school, that's when they had forcing kids into. I think it was called Central High, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Central High. So he's over at this other school, and they're like, hey, look, Jerry Jones was doing the same thing that was happening over at Central High at his high school, which puts pressure on him, interjects race into the conversation, which they want Jerry Jones out of there. And if, like I said, and I think this is just how I look at it, Washington Post, Bezos trying to buy a team. I don't really want Washington's team because, like you said, you got to deal with the politicians in Washington. Yeah. Where are we going to have the stadium? This is the thing that Snyder has.
The name is probably, they had the Redskins. They changed it to what is it?
Commanders.
I mean, it's a shitty name. It's like, who wants a team with that? Everyone thinks you're going to think Washington Redskins for the rest of that. I can't ever think of them as Commanders.
I totally agree. But I'm just telling you, this is the setup. And when I saw this, I was like, on Thanksgiving Day and, because, so this is the whole setup. So you kind of see what's going down here.
Yeah, I do. Wow, this is great reporting. We got this picture. This is fantastic. By the way, general observation, the white students here, they all got blue jeans on, and the black students are just dressed to the T in this. It's just a general observation.
That makes me think about what you said when you said about coming over when you had guests that time.
Yes. Exactly. Yep.
You have to dress to impress. You have to look the part. That was the main thing. So now we're going to get into Jerry Jones' response and the attack, quote unquote. When I say attack, I'm talking about the strategic plan to put him on the hot seat on his day. I mean, like Thanksgiving Day is his Christmas. Because he gets to put his big stadium on showcase, America's team on showcase, and he has to answer questions like this in clip 4.
Jerry, any thoughts on the Washington Post article and how the picture they painted of you from a picture when you were 14 years old?
Yeah, that was, 65 years ago, and a curious kid. I didn't know at the time the monumental event, really, that was going on, and I'm sure glad that we're a long way from that. I am, and we just that would remind me just continue to do everything we can to not have those kinds of things happen.
Any regrets just being in the photo, being there at all?
What?
Any regrets on being in the photo, being there at all?
Well, I wouldn't have just dug that up for sure. Right. I mean, seriously. But that was curiously, I got criticized because I was more interested in how I was going to be punished by my coaches and everybody for being out front. But nobody there had any idea, frankly, what was going to take place. You didn't. We didn't have all the last 70 years of reference and all the things that were going, and so you didn't have a reference point there. Still, I've got a habit of sticking this nose in the right place at the wrong time.
Oh, Mr. Jones, you have no idea what's coming down the pike. Clearly, he had no idea. What is he separated from reality?
No, he has a lot of protectors in the media. Because he is, like I said, the king of the NFL.
Yeah.
And NFL is the king of all television shows in America.
No doubt.
Would you agree? I mean, okay, so
for me,
I was want to make sure.
For me, yes, because I always watch the Super Bowl. So right there, it's just a media event. I love how it's put together. I will say I also watch a good bit of soccer. I do like the soccer. But when it comes to American television made for the commercials, football is your game.
That's the point. It's not like basketball. It's constant flowing. You can stop the game anytime you want to. It's great. It's great for advertisement.
Yep. And
it's like I said, it's in our tradition.
Yes.
Even with the imagery, that we're going to get to later, and with the whole race thing, it's sitting down with your grandfather, your fathers, your brothers, your uncles, watching the game.
I think I've mentioned this before, but when I was growing up in the Netherlands, you couldn't get, obviously, I mean, there's two channels. They were not going to show football. The American Women's Club of Amsterdam, which is just, they had a library and other things. They had Game of the Week brought to you by American Express. And they'd have, and it was on film. And my dad and I would go on, I don't know, maybe Monday night or Tuesday night, and we go watch the highlight reel that was sent from America. And I remember thinking, like, it was so cool because they had snow games, and they do the slow mo, and I'd just be like, wow, this is so amazing. I didn't understand much of the game really at the time. I was very young, but I remember how impactful that was, and it was a cool thing to watch.
It's the way it's shot.
Yes.
The NFL has hundreds of cameras at one game getting every angle. And now we fast forward into, you're saying, modern day. I mean, they're tracking the ball. They got sensors in the ball telling you how fast guys are running. Yep. What's the odds of them making plays and this and that. And speaking of odds, it's a huge gambling sport.
Yes.
Gambling, if you watch TV now, you see gambling is wide open. And across the United States, I think there's some states that don't allow gambling, but for the most part, gambling has been a huge part of, it's the growth of sports.
We like to
starting
say
with fantasy.
Sports betting is what we prefer to say, Mo. We don't like saying gambling. It's sports betting.
Okay. Before it became, I get you politically correct. Yeah. But yeah, so this is sports. And the fact, like I said, he had to answer these questions after his Cowboys had taken center stage on Thanksgiving instead of talking about what he likes to talk about, the Cowboys. And he's had run-ins with race because when the whole Kaepernick take a knee thing, he told his players, we're going to do what's best for business. We're going to make a business decision here.
Right.
And to show you just the force of Kaepernick, he even had to come out and make a pivot to take a knee with his players. And that kind of like showed the force of Nike and all these other forces that was trying to take out the NFL.
Right.
So I guess we can go and get to the second part of him being interrogated, part two.
Did you get in trouble with your coach for being there?
I sure did.
What was the punishment?
Well, I was a young sophomore trying to make the team, and they kicked my ass.
Jerry, it came after the Little Rock situation at Little Rock Central, though, right? that photo and that incident?
Excuse me?
That incident came out, the situation in Little Rock Central.
Well, that was North Little Rock,
right,
which was literally just 2 or 3 miles away.
Was it the same day as Little Rock Central, or it came
As I recall, it was certainly in proximity with it. Those were certainly the issues that were going on, but did not have the structure or it was not the event that the central thing was.
Oh, that's interesting. I think now he's figured it out in this interview. It's like, oh, okay, hold on a second. They got something here. I got to tread lightly. Yeah.
And speaking of treading lightly, notice the reporters are treading lightly because you're talking to a guy that can get you sent you
kicked out of the stadium. Yeah, go cover Afghanistan.
Not kick. Yeah, you have you covering water polo in Siberia somewhere if you step on the wrong thing. And Jerry Jones had a lot of people come out and protect him, after the fallout happened, one being Stephen A. Smith. And I could have went that way in the show, but I really didn't want to go there. I want people to understand how this attack worked. I mean, the mechanics of it. Like now when he's bring up Central High, even notice like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like, this is bigger than just me being over at my high school. You're trying to make me the face of racism in the South in the 1950s.
And so again, the premise here is that this is a targeted attack by Bezos, owner of the Washington Post, who wants to own a team. And with that as the backdrop, this is already, clip 5. I'm already outraged. What's going on? That's crazy.
So I just want to lay that out for people. And like I said, he has no tear for Jerry Jones because he has the money and the power to protect himself. But like I said, I always want to look at what the play is. Like, why is this happening? Why is this happening now? Oh, the Washington Post, that's interesting. And you see little nuggets. Oh, Jay-Z and Bezos is trying to buy a team. And what I try to do is connect all this together. One more thing before we move on. Notice his coaches he got in trouble with his coaches.
Kicked his ass,
Why would he get in trouble with his coaches? We'll answer that question later. Huh. Because coaches are trying to get the best talent. I'm just going to leave that there. They're trying to get the best talent no matter where it comes from.
I got you.
And maybe that's why the players were up there protesting because they felt some
better players were coming in. Yeah,
exactly. So the reporters went a little too far in this next clip, and I want you just to pick up when a billionaire has had enough.
Jerry, do you understand the perception that people have of you standing there? Because that was not exactly a welcoming committee that day.
Yeah, I sure do. And I understand that. And I've just understand it. Yes.
So for the people that look at that and say you were a part of that, and you're saying you were curious, and other people are saying, well, this was a crowd, basically,
Look, that was 65 years ago.
Right there.
And I had no idea when I walked up there what we were doing. And it just is a reminder to me of how to improve and do things the right way.
So what did you think of the crowd these kids were just trying to go to school? There was a whole lot of people, there was a lot of hostility towards those kids.
Yeah, you want to ask me what I was thinking? Okay, I was thinking about I'm going to get in trouble for being up here, and I didn't know what was going on, and I was 15 years old. And so having said that, that's all that I can remember.
Okay.
I got to say something about this in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
This picture, it's from because you're seeing cameras behind, cameras in front. It's an elevated shot from above. This thing reminds me, because a picture is just a moment in time, right?
Right.
And you can make up any story you want. And when I see this picture, black and white, for some reason, the time, of course, the quality of the photo, it reminds me of Jack Ruby shooting Harvey Oswald.
And I'm glad you picked up on that, because these weren't just kids that showed up and said, hey, I want to go to your high school. No, this goes all the way back to Brown versus Board of Education. We talked about that on the previous show, and how all that was orchestrated. The right kids were selected, the right case, the right place. This was just a continuation of that. And I believe this was a dry run for what was going to happen over at Central High.
Okay. Yeah. And well, again, coincidence that this is different from all the press that is standing there. This is from above and the top. It's showing everything you'd want to see to build this story. Interesting.
And where did this picture come from? I mean, that's the real question that nobody really answers is, did Daniel Snyder, is this some of the dirt? And I have no answer to this question I'm about to ask, but I have to ask it. Did Daniel Snyder have access to this picture and barter is like, hey, I got a bigger fish for you, if you don't want to buy my team. Oh. And Bezos is like, cool. I'd much rather have the preeminent team than the team with all the political baggage
all
and
the problems. Yeah,
right. They come with it. And this lets Daniel Snyder live. They were saying to see another day. I'm just laying it out there. But what we got to do now is get the background of the picture. These next few clips will contextualize the environment of what was going on in Little Rock, Arkansas in 1957. So this is a History Channel report. And this is Ernest Green, one of the class of 58, one of the black students speaking.
Moment, an event that forever altered the course of race relations in America. As our image reveals itself, the 1957 school year is about to begin, and an angry mob is trying to stop 9 black students from entering Central High in Little Rock, Arkansas.
The question I usually get asked is, were we scared? I think initially we didn't anticipate clearly all of the violence and turmoil that occurred. The first day that we attempted to go to school, 8 of us were at one part of the school and Elizabeth Eckford was at another part. And there was the mob that followed Elizabeth. Then you begin to feel that this was a very hostile, violent group of people. Even at that point, I told myself that if we didn't go through with it, didn't attend Central and backed out, it would just reinforce the view that the African American community in Little Rock wasn't interested in making a change in things.
How you like that trauma-based music?
Yeah, very good. Where's that from?
History Channel.
Of course. Hello. William P. Strader was the photographer, apparently.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if I can find it. There's no real information on him, but
yeah, you probably.
He was from Associated Press. He was an AP reporter. Interesting.
Yeah. So now we got the setup. We have the Central, the Little Rock 9. And like I said, one of the ones got separated, and 1 and 8, and they got together. They finally made it together, and this is what they met trying to get into school. So you want to continue on? Got any questions?
No, I'm good. Let's keep rolling. I got the next.
Let's get traumatized.
Yeah, woo! All right, traumatize me, people. Oh, nice.
During the 1950s, African Americans throughout the country were trying to make their voices heard.
The Negro citizens of Montgomery, Alabama, do now and will continue to carry on our mass protest.
The driver demanded that I give this seat up to a white man. I didn't feel that I was being treated as a human being. I refused to give up this seat. I said no.
Little Rock was a year after the Montgomery bus boycott. So we had seen the impact of Rosa Parks and the beginning of Dr. King's career, and knew that things could change.
All in favor, let it be known by standing on your feet.
Man, that's some good trauma music. That's a great.
And they
track.
had all the triggers in there. MLK.
Yep.
Rosa Parks, which we spoke about. We spoke about Rosa Parks and the whole school in Tennessee.
Yeah, it was. She was a Hollywood version of the real thing.
Well, and speaking of which, we're not going to go too far down this rabbit hole. But Ye got himself in some trouble, other than what he was already in trouble for.
Wait! You telling me Ye got in some trouble? I hadn't heard about that.
It was little reported, but he made a statement saying Rosa Parks was a plant, which
yes.
Saying how Kanye says it, you're saying it could be very triggering. But we talked about this in her relationship with I forget the family's name, but it went back to Hugo Black, who was a Supreme Court justice, and the lawyers that were behind her. So, if you're listening, just don't be a deadbeat, brother. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it was so bad with Ye's comment that I saw articles appearing reaffirming how legit Rosa Parks was.
Right, and I would like to give a big shout out to Elvis the Chef Rosenberg, because he gave a consistent producer on the show. He actually was sending people to the show we did, The Dream Machine. Like, hey, you need to watch it. He had in comment section everywhere, and he gave us a big shout out on his show. So I just want to stop the show and saying thank you for promoting what we're doing over here.
Yes, and if anyone's interested, I'll put some links into Claudette Colvin. You might be interested in that.
Right. So let's go ahead and wrap up with this trauma-based entertainment, as we call it, with clip number 3.
The first step for the Little Rock Nine came in May 1954, when the U.S. Supreme Court issued its opinion in the landmark case Brown versus the Topeka, Kansas Board of Education. Separate but equal was inherently unequal, and integration was now the law of the land. In 1957, this decision and the power of the federal government were tested in Little Rock, Arkansas.
We didn't, at the moment we were selected, have any idea it was going to be as difficult as it turned out to be.
In the face of protest at Central High School, the governor of Arkansas, Orville Faubus, calls out the National Guard. His official reasoning is to preserve the peace and prevent violence.
It clearly wasn't to protect us. It was to make a symbolic stand. It was to protect the way of life in the South, because they barred our entrance.
Mm-hmm. All right, so now you see it's a bigger play going on.
Yeah.
And this is how they use special interest groups, race being the one here. Let's use controversy to make bigger change. And this was really about state rights, what the federal government could tell states.
Right.
That was the bigger play, but they use quote unquote black people as the battering ram to, force their way into these schools so that the federal government could stretch their power. Now, and, you know what I'm saying, and advance their power.
When you say they, who are you referring to in this case?
The NAACP.
Okay.
That was one of the big groups that was backing the Little Rock Nine, mm-hmm. and these other liberal operations that wanted to see the federal government gain power. So I'm going to do now that you asked that question, I'm going to do a quick change on the fly. Let's listen to 11 first, because that's actually Orville Faubus, the governor of Arkansas, and he's going to go more into the state rights, and then we'll come back to 10.
Central High. We are now an occupied territory. Evidence of the naked force of the federal government is here apparent in these unsheathed bayonets in the backs of schoolgirls, in the backs of students, and in the bloody face of this railroad worker who was bayoneted and then fell by the butt of a rifle in the hands of a sergeant of the United States 101st Airborne Division.
Wow.
There can be no question of the supremacy of the United States Army when used against a defenseless state. Therefore, we must continue our peaceful pursuits of life, being good citizens, as the overwhelming majority of our people have always been. I've been working and fighting for the right of my people to solve their problems peacefully. This, as we know, requires time and patience. I shall continue unrelentlessly on this course.
Now, was it the National Guard who did that?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's messed up.
Right. So this was a response. School integration was a response to, quote unquote, black people asking for separate but equal.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if you got a school, we want an identical school. You have this edition of a book, we want that edition of a book. Same resources.
Right.
It wasn't to be forced together because, one, there was really, and I got some clips to show that. We talked about it before on the show. To back up my claim, my father was one of those people. I talked about this before, that he was actually, I guess you don't call it bus because it wasn't bus, but he was forced to go to integrated school his senior year of high school.
Yeah,
and you could imagine
that was he and Kamala Harris. They both had to do that, right?
Right, but the thing is my dad wasn't going for it. He wasn't one of these he wasn't one of these hand selected students, and this is no slight at the people that were selected, but of course they selected people with a certain disposition that could be spat on and not hit back. To they got
take
the
right
violence
ones.
And abuse.
Yeah, they auditioned them without them knowing it.
Correct, and you had to show the correct temperament, which my father did not have the correct temperament because he was constantly getting into brawls at the school. Yeah,
I wonder if that was passed down to you at all, Mo.
I wonder.
No rebel here.
No, the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. But at the same time, he was able to graduate. But I'm just saying this was forced, and it's the forced thing. So I have we're going to go back to 10 now, and we're going to listen to an old Southern white man speak on how he felt about the forced integration.
Do you think the Negro students ever will get in here?
I think they'll get in here, but I don't know how long they'll live after they do get in here. That's my honest opinion. I'm talking to you, giving you my honest opinion. Because they cannot keep the police out here always. I don't think they got any business in here to start with.
Well, what if the president brings in federal troops?
I don't think the president has, under the Constitution, the president has any authority to send in federal troops unless our governor asks for it. They're taking all of the state rights away from the states when they do a thing like that. That's only my opinion of it.
Yeah, very appropriate for today.
Yeah, and that's we're seeing more and more as well. We talked about before, and I said it a lot, but this covers a lot of the things we talked about with you having red states and blue states. But if you make something a federal law, it supersedes what the states' rights cover, which you see with Roe versus Wade. That's why it was a big deal when they said kick it back to the states.
Right, if it's constitutional, exactly.
Right, they want to codify it into federal law, and we've seen that with the Marriage Act and those kind of things.
And maybe just a quick reminder for people that the Constitution of the United States, many people don't know this or forget it. There's a lot of people not from America listening to this podcast. The Constitution is literally a document, particularly the Bill of Rights, all the amendments that explains what the federal government is not allowed to do. What they're not, it's really a restriction for the federal government. And if it's not expressly in the Constitution, it's all the state's business. And that, of course, has been, since this is 1957, we've encroached that so far. It's so far from where it originally was. But that is the original deal of the Federation of the United States.
Right. And that was the bigger play for the federal government to have, have overreach, but they were using black students as the battering ram.
Well, that hasn't changed. This is good. We've kept on that tip.
We see that, like, now, fast forward, we're seeing it more with the LGBT community. It's like, if you don't want drag queens coming to your school and reading, something's wrong with you. And people are like, that's a little bit too far for me.
Yeah,
but I'm just showing you the same play then is the same play now. Yeah. And we see the same thing happen with Jerry Jones. There's a bigger play. They play on your racial reflex to get emotional that's when you really need to start thinking and say, okay, be more critical. Like, why do you want me to feel this way? Why all of a sudden, I thought this, who's surprised that Jerry Jones has some racist skeletons in his past, being 82-year-old.
At his age, yes.
Coming from Arkansas.
Right.
And being raised around people like the last man speaking. He was, like you said, I don't know how long they're going to be in here. They might get in here, and he's on camera saying this, so that just tells you how bold he is. But of course, that didn't trickle down to the youth, would it, Adam?
No kidding.
Number 12.
What's this all about?
Well, certain groups have voiced their opinions that the school should be reopened, even if it's on an integrated basis. And we just think that we still have the majority of the people behind us back in Faubus and wanting segregated schools.
Keep the school closed and open it integrated, right?
We're willing to leave them closed a little bit longer if Faubus can help us, and we think he can.
You're pinning everything on him?
Yes.
You think most of the kids in all the high schools feel this way?
Yes, sir.
Do you think you can? Suppose this were a long fight. Suppose it meant no school for a year. You still feel the same way?
Wow.
It wasn't just the old folks.
No. What's interesting, though, and maybe you'll get to this, is how we've come around full circle to the upside down world where now we have, black groups requesting segregation of school dormitories, segregation of all kinds of stuff.
And what it is it's a perversion of separate but equal.
Yeah.
It's that we want to be in your university, and that's great foreshadowing for where we're headed. But it's that we want to carve out a space in your institutions, and it's equal but not separate. It's like we want to be embedded but equal. You know what I mean? Like it's a weird perversion of separate but equal, because we're like, we want to be over here. Y'all are over there. If we interact, but don't force us to be together. Because I'm gonna say it like this: being if I was a parent, then there's no way you're using my child as a test dummy. Not happening. Not if they would have came to me, hey, you want your kid to be go over here? No, I'd rather them stay at the school where they're at and not be emotionally abused and traumatized, rather than have some kind of symbolic victory. And I'm gonna tell you how far. I just got to get this one story out, because this whole thing surrounds me. I'm like with my father, and like we were in a place called Spindale, North Carolina, but we moved to Durham, North Carolina, and in Durham, North Carolina was Durham High. Durham High in 1959 was integrated by Lou Hannon. No, excuse me. Let me make sure I get their names right. Put respect to their name. It was Jocelyn McKissick and Claudette Bram. Well, that's Claudette. You know what I'm saying? Another Claudette. Boy, that's a great name to name your kids. You know what I'm saying? You want to be a rebel. But they were integrated. The urban legend around Durham is they put cement in a Olympic-sized swimming pool. Well, a Olympic depth. I mean, it wasn't the same size, but a professional type swimming pool. They filled it up with cement instead of letting black kids swim in it. That's the urban legend. Now there is a picture of the swimming pool, but the swimming pool ain't there no more. So I don't know what happened to it. I don't know how you get rid of the swimming pool, but I'm just telling you how these things have life of their own, and these stories carry on. Like rather to swim with black kids, we rather not have a swimming pool. That was the response to integration. Now, going forward, we got to go back to show 51. That was Civil Wrongs. And this was the gentleman from Farmville speaking on a black man, speaking on how he wasn't too excited to be integrated himself.
When I first heard about integration and heard that it may possibly one day be the way things would go, I had very mixed feelings about it. I was no more anxious to mingle with white people than I'm sure many of them were anxious to mingle with me. I felt the same reservations, the same prejudices, I guess I may as well say, that any of them felt, So I was not at all thrilled over the prospect. But as time went on, I began to realize that possibly this was, after all, the only way that the terrible injustices could be somewhat alleviated. And so more and more I began to favor the idea of integration. But I think many black people felt just as I did. They really didn't want any parts of white people. They would have preferred if it were. I've often thought if separate but equal had been a reality, you'd never had an integration struggle.
Yeah, this was Moe Factz 51, if everyone's looking for the whole show.
Yes, show 51, that was Civil Wrongs. So, like I said, we talked about this before, but we have to go back, revisit it, because we got to say, this is what the spell was leaning upon, that was casted. It's like, yeah, let's trigger up this the Little Rock 9, tie Jerry Jones to that, and maybe we can get some a wedge in there to try to force him out of his team, or put pressure on, or at least Bezos would gain more leverage in this situation, especially trying to buy a team with the quote unquote black owner being Jay-Z. So,
and just a quick thing on the integration, and we probably talked about this, maybe even on 51, where I went to college for exactly one semester, Salem, West Virginia, and it was 50% black, 50% white. Most people from the East Coast. The kids are from mainly South Jersey. And I remember my roommate, Ty Hamilton, I remember us both looking at each other like, oh, okay. I mean, I didn't even know that he was black. He probably figured, maybe with a name like Adam, he didn't think that I would be white. But I remember that first day in the dorm room like, oh, hey. And of course, I wasn't white. I was from Holland, because I pulled up my boombox and threw on some Shannon, let the music play, and we became friends. And that really connected us. But I definitely felt the tension. And it was real from both sides. But then once we connected, I was welcomed, equally by black and white students across the school. But I remember the tension, and that was 1982 or 83 or something like that.
And another thing that we had to factor in is that we had a lot of Northerners coming down South, not understanding the politics of the South.
Right.
And you have to live in the South to understand the racial politics of the South. It's a total different experience from being raised anywhere else, because maybe we're too dumb or too brave to leave, black people of the South. However you want to look at it, because you're not running me. I come from a lot of people that didn't, and this is no disrespect to people that moved north for better opportunities. I have family members that did that, but the ones that stayed, we just have a different understanding of racial politics in the South. Even me being born in 1980, there was just because I was raised by a black man. He was saying that was born in 1951.
Right.
That experienced Jim Crow and all these things. So, like I said, they come in and they start pulling at these threads, but they don't understand the brunt of the force is going to end up on the people on their. And I hate to use the word, on their operatives. I don't think of it unknowingly. They're not the ones going to take the lump. It's going to be the black students that take the lumps and the trauma. And I'm not for that. Like I said, I'll reiterate my point that nowhere in the hell my kids would be talked into experiencing some trauma like that.
Yeah, if you can shield them from that, of course you will.
Right. But we can't put all the blame of separate but equal on just the people that were given the resources. As the gentleman pointed out in part 2 of this clip, it was also the black leadership that failed the black schools.
Black people would have been very, very satisfied to maintain, but just make sure it's equal. And that's where the problem lay. Our Moton High School, a joke, man, with a couple of tar paper shacks, which were unsightly. And compared to the Farmville High School, this is the idea of separate but equal. books so torn apart. In one case, a friend of mine who was supposed to teach chemistry, man, the only books he could get, he had shreds and particles and pieces of books. And by linking up in his classroom, he passed out what he had. By linking up together, the kids were then able to get together enough material to. These books have been discarded by the white high school some years before and passed on to the black school. Now, this points out the weakness and the corruption of the principal, who was black. This teacher, friend of mine, not knowing the chain of commands, his brand new teacher, went to the superintendent and said, look what I've got to work. I can't work with it. How can I teach chemistry with this junk? And immediately got a brand new set of books for his classroom. Now, the point of this is this. That principal could also have done that, but it was better for the principal to report a surplus at the end of that happened.
Oh, man, I don't even remember this clip. It's so weird.
So this is the boule at work, because this is where that I'm different coming at. And we're going to get into that in the next clip, what that rate really means. But look at me. I'm one of a few. That's what when people lean into that and accept that I'm different, that's saying I'm one of a few. I'm one of the talented 10th. I'm one of the exceptional black people.
You're not like the others. You're not like the other black people.
Correct. And people lean into that because it makes them feel special. But then you got to understand what's not you, but the proverbial you has to understand what's being said with that. It's like, we think most of y'all think down here, but by the grace of God or, just sheer luck, you're different. And really both sides of this argument are operating from a place it's a new term I coined called a scientific white supremacist. Ooh. And they base their logic off of science to say, black people aren't as smart as everybody else. We've done the numbers. We've run the numbers. Now you will have different, gradients, but overall they're lesser. So on one side you say, well, we have to step in. This will be the NAACP, and operations like that. We have to step in for and think for the black people. And then the other side is, I don't want to go with those less than, I don't want those animals around my children. I mean, you heard Joe Biden being alleged, he made that statement, they'll become racial jungles. That's what he's referring to when he's alleged to say that. But I'm just saying, so it's not that both sides look at him as, these are free thinking people and let's give them the resources and see how it pans out. It's that we have to influence and step in and, and commandeer the situation. So to prove my point about the scientific racism and scientific white supremacy this is Jared Taylor. This goes back to 85, Overman. And we talked about Darwin and things of that nature. We might need a trigger warning, but can you grab that while I finish up? But this is how a true scientific white supremacist thinks. And he said it out loud.
Trigger warning. Trigger warning. Trigger warning. Your attention, please. Trigger warning has been activated.
Whites and Asians evolved in harsh northern climates in which people had to make plans to make it through the winter. They had to cooperate to hunt and share food, and couples had to stay together for children to survive. Africa was more forgiving. Cooperation, planning ahead, and care for children were less important. Psychopaths could survive, reproduce, and pass along their genes. I think this is as good an explanation as any. The point is, however they got that way, people of different races are, on average, different. Expecting everyone to be the same is crazy. Blaming whites when blacks fall short is not just crazy, it's vicious. Until we understand this, we can't even begin to talk about America's problems, much less solve them. Thank you for watching.
Thank you, Jared.
Yep, thank you.
So this is what it boils down to, is that, is it nature? Is it nurture? He's leaning on the side that it's due to genetics. Asian and white people come from harsh conditions, and it killed off more of the sociopaths.
Right.
And black people have more sociopaths because they were reproducing in more accommodating and beneficial environments. This is the crux of the scientific white supremacy argument.
Right, which was raging in the 20s and the 30s. Of course, we had the Eugenics Society of America, which never really went away. And after the whole Hitler thing, which was kind of annoying for us, then it kind of came back. And I don't even know if that debate has ever left.
No, and it doesn't. So, but now I have a clip of Malcolm X. He's saying there is a difference, but he leans more towards nurture and environment. It's a very interesting clip. So, number 16.
This is part true. And you won't find very many people who are Afro-American who will admit it. But if it is true, why? It is true that there is a sluggishness, intellectual sluggishness, academic sluggishness in almost any Negro community. But this exists only because of the result that has come upon us through years and years of slavery and being held down in this society. And this is why I made reference to the book Crisis in Black and White. This particular man gives a very good scientific analysis as to why this lethargy exists in the Negro community. It is something that has been created by the system. The system is designed to make the Negro student lose his interest in education almost before he even gets started in school. And the parents usually, who are also limited where education is concerned and who have run into so many barriers and obstacles despite the fact they had education, sometimes they ask themselves, what's the use? So as long as the system that we are in exists, and this system, the survival of this system depends upon the continued exploitation of the black man in this country. The survival of it depends upon the continued degrading of the black man in this country and the necessity of using us as the whipping boy and the alibi and the excuse. As long as this system exists, then you will find that our people will have the same attitude toward education. And they have a justified, I should say, they have an attitude that can be explained. But at the same time, the burden rests upon the leaders of the Afro-American community to try and instill within the youth especially the desire to further their education, because without it, you're not going anywhere on this earth today.
Yeah, enter all the reverends and the pastors who did such a good job at that.
Correct. And this is why I was such, is such a opponent of CRT, critical race theory. Because all it does is further the lower expectations of black students. Enter math is racist. Oh, yeah, that could be more than one. According to your zip code and your social economic status, you're allowed to have more than one right answer to a math problem. How in the hell does that help?
It helps enslave people even more. That's the way I see it.
Right, which it handicaps you, which makes you more reliant on the people that come in and say, oh, poor you. Now you need my help even more, which it sets that white savior thing that I think Bill Burr talked about in his comedy sketch.
Yes, it's the true racism. It's the true racism of today.
Right, because I'm to the point, let's prove it. Let's have separate but equal. Let's have equal resources. And if you're right, then the test scores will stay lower. There will, if it's a cap on black intellectual capabilities, it will be shown as separate but equal, because you have in an experiment you can only have one variable, right? Mm-hmm. That's the scientific method. So the one variable will be race. You got the same environment, same schools, same materials, everything else, and now we'll see. Does black intellectual capability go up, or does it stay stagnant, or does it go down? But they don't want to do that because both sides benefit from this song and dance. One, they're both scientific white supremacists. And I'm sorry to say that, but I'm not really sorry to say that. And both sides benefit from from it. And what they try to do to Jerry Jones is make him the face of white supremacy, like they try to make the KKK the face of white supremacy.
Right.
You know, it's not the people in white sheets that are our problem. It's the people in white coats.
Yes, and it's not even people with white skin necessarily. I mean, if we know that, you know, the true white supremacy, you know, coming from Europe, it really isn't even that much about the white face anymore.
Right, and that's why I made the point of saying, I said it on a previous show, that they're making the quote-unquote MAGA people a person of color, orange.
Hey, how about this? Can I just adapt your, because you had scientific white supremacist. How about white coat supremacist?
No, because it's...
No?
Because I mean, the reason why I say push back against that, because you got to go back to clip 15. It's the logic to say we are the smartest people on the face of the earth. And this is what Bill Gates comes down to say, hey, we could kill off 90% of people because we're the smartest people on the earth.
Yeah.
And really, we're the only really people value adding people is like 10%. So we can do away with the other 90%. You know, I mean, that's their mentality, and it's based off of Darwinism. I know that frustrates a lot of people, but that's the whole point of race is to put people in hierarchies to say, okay, this one's smarter than this one's smarter than this one. Due 100% due to genetics. So I think if we try to do that, we lose the point of they are backing everything they think, the scientific white supremacists, off of the genetics, the science of genetics. This is why, like I said, this is why they go and say, like I said, this is why they push birth control and all these other things. And just to move the show forward a little bit, this is why the creation of the talented 10th, aka the Boule, was created, to say we understand scientifically, y'all will have smart people. Not at the rate we do, but y'all will.
Right.
So what we do is we'll carve out a place for them, but the other 9% got to go.
Screw you.
Kill you.
Yeah.
One way or the and I want to make this clear.
Even better, kill them before they're born. That's the best way.
No, not kill them before they're born. You're almost there. Kill them before they reproduce.
Okay,
that's the goal.
Right. Ah, yes,
you know
sterilized. That was the eugenics movement, was sterilization.
Correct. The reason why they have to do this is because, and shouts out to my man Grump. Me and him had this long conversation. It really boils down to one marshmallow, two marshmallow. And sorry that I'm belaboring this, but we got to get this kind of laid out to make the rest of the show
make sense.
Be understandable. Yeah, makes sense. Have you ever heard of the marshmallow test?
Well, I've heard of the brown paper bag test.
No, the marshmallow test was this book written, and they said people that eat one marshmallow, they gave kids marshmallow. They said you can eat the one marshmallow now, or if you wait, you'll get two marshmallows.
Yes, we've talked about this.
Right. So that's their whole point. They trying to get rid of all the one marshmallow people, the people that can't delay gratification. That's the scientific, what the Jared Taylor's talking about. They, quote unquote, when I say they, he's talking about black people. And brown people, I'm saying different hues. They are one marshmallow people.
Just to give some context, this was a Stanford experiment, Stanford University, from 1972.
Right.
And was only really challenged harshly in the last couple of years, I think. Came up again.
Right, but it's still being pushed to this day, even like some of these other flawed thought processes is that, you know, that, and the way Jared is looking at it, and I'm not pointing him out particularly, but people that think like him, there's a greater percentage of one marshmallow people in black people. So, well, we can dance around the subject, or we can just, you know, address the subject. And that's when your birth control and your abortion and sterilization, another form of sterilization is transitioning, which is just another form of that. We have to
voluntary sterilization, my friend.
Right. We have to kill them before they reproduce. Even what's happening in Canada right now. You're depressed?
Die. Die. We'll help you die. Yep.
Before you reproduce, because guess what? That one marshmallow person can make 3 or 4 or 5 or 10, and the 2 marshmallow people are not reproducing at the same rate. This is the sick scientific mind we're dealing with here, that they want to play God, and that's why I can't get on board with it.
No, of course not. And I'll just say again, because I made such a study of it after, I don't know, this was maybe 5-6 shows ago. I really did a deep dive into the Eugenics Society of America. It's still here. It's still the same thinking. It's the same ideas.
It never
went away.
It's a constant drumbeat, one foot after the other, slow, and that's why I always point to the Fabian socialists. Their mentality is progress, continual improvement, and it's a very scientific. And I know I've said scientific bunch, but I want to make this is not emotional. We have to take the emotion out of things and understand the lizard people are scared as hell. Mm-hmm. And what do lizard people do? They either fight or flight.
Right.
That's it. And they're like, we can't flight off of Earth just yet. So what do we got to do? We have to go on the offensive, i.e., you're saying the vaccinations, transitioning, abortion, birth control, giving up your right to reproduce for climate change. All of these things center around, if you're dumb enough to fall for this, you're not smart enough to go to the future where we're headed.
No, there it is. You just said it right there. Let's put something out there. If you're dumb enough to fall for it, we were right about you. That's what it is.
Right. And enter the talented 10th. Because they say, okay, y'all get you're different. Now here we come with the you're different. Now I have to humanize everybody, as I always do. You have to look at it from the flip side of the talent 10th. They're saying, I have these special abilities, these skills. And like I said, I know we belabored in between clips, but I have to make this clear what's going on. Because I was one of these kids that was in this class. This is Judge Joe Brown, and it's a video of him talking to these, looks like, preteen kids, and he's going to tell them how they're the talent 10th and how they're obligated to raise their race up, which I have no issue with that, but it's who you recruiting them, that you're sending them off to these PMIs, predominantly white institutions where they'll be isolated from their people.
Right.
They'll be seen as different by their people, and they won't be effective. So basically what you're doing is, taking the cream of the crop and leaving the other 90% behind. But if you think you've been blessed with a certain skill to elevate your people, and it's sold to you like Judge O'Brien and selling it to them, and I don't think he has an ill will in his heart, but because I've had this conversation. I told you I was elected 7th grade treasurer, right?
Mm.
And they came in, are you going to be on the Freedom Riders, the future Freedom Riders?
Right. Yeah, let's get on the bus. We'll ride you around. Yeah.
And this is the kind of speech you would get when you were put on the bus, 17.
What I want to talk to you about is W.E.B. Du Bois or Du Bois, or however you want to pronounce it. He spoke of the talented 10th, that is the 1/10 of the population of what he called colored people, then Negroes, then black, then Afro-American, then black, and then African-American, and considering some developments, maybe Afro-American again. But anyway, 1/10 of the race, he said, will be able to improve themselves, and then being conscientious and dedicated to the cause, pull the rest of the people up with you. Now, some way, somehow, that stopped being manifest objective of our people who got an education. And we've slid back so that the neighborhood no longer has leadership. Everybody kind of takes off for other parts when they can leave the hood. It's a lot more pleasant. But we have to still exercise leadership because we should be in charge if we are the talented 10. And that's an obligation.
Huh. And when was this from, this Judge Brown clip?
This looks like the early 2000s.
Wow.
I'm just going by video. I mean, I don't have a set date, but I'm looking by dress and clothes and that kind of thing. It looks maybe early 2000s when this was taken. And like I said, he doesn't have any ill will toward, this is the the argument, Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois. That's the art. Do we build from ground up, or do we start with top down?
Cory Booker.
You elevate your 10%, and then they reach back down and pull up. Or do you say we build with a strong foundation, and that foundation elevates another level, then another level, then another level. Then you have a strong foundation, which, even given the dichotomy, or the binary choice, is dumb to me, because you need both. But
yeah, of course.
This is what has been done, that you had two groups come in and say choice A or choice B. And just to go back for a minute, because I want to bring up Trading Places for a minute. This is what this was all about. Are they genetically this way, or is it nature versus nurture? That kind of thing. And as you see how the movie played out, if you change a person's environment, it changes their outlook, which, let their true capability shine through. But that's what that's what it boils down to. And it's very cold, calculating, and scientific, to say that word for 100 times. But we have to not throw the science part out with it. But they trigger you by triggering your emotion and say, oh, Jerry Jones, here he is, 80 years ago in a black and white picture. Now be mad and don't come up with no solutions. Be mad and react the way we want you to react.
So we can get him out, get the team, get Jay-Z in, build a new stadium, gentrify the whole neighborhood, make $1 billion.
Even with that, it's get Jay-Z in, but as you pointed out, to get 0.1%, but that's playing on your emotions. Yeah. Oh, we got a black owner now. Do we? Yeah. Like, really? No, Bezos is the owner. Yeah.
Doesn't Jay-Z literally own 0.3% of the Nets or something? It's it's infinitesimal.
He did, but he sold it. And Jay-Z's playing chess here.
Oh, yeah.
He did basketball first, then he got in a sports agency, and then he did the thing.
Then he got the Super Bowl contract to do all the media, to do all the show, the halftime show.
But we got to back up one step, because he was on Colin Kaepernick's side in the beginning.
Right.
And that's why I told you that was Jay-Z's pound cake moment. And if people don't know what I'm talking about, when Bill Cosby gave that pound cake speech, that's when he kind of lost the backing of quote unquote black people, because whoa, you're on Colin's side now. All of a sudden, you're doing halftime shows for the NFL and in the Super Bowl, and that was a bad look for us because it portrayed the wrong image, a racial image.
Does it make sense to play the pound cake again?
If you want to, sure, just to give people context.
Yeah, I'd like to do that. Hold on a sec.
In the old days, you couldn't hooky school, because behind every drawn shade was an eye. And before your mother got off the bus into the house, she knew exactly where you had gone, who had gone into the house. Parents don't know that today. I'm talking about these people who cry when their son is standing there in an orange suit. Where were you when he was 2? Where were you when he was 12? Where were you when he was 18? And how come you don't know he had a pistol? These are not political criminals. These are people going around stealing Coca-Cola. People getting shot in the back of the head over a piece of pound cake. And then we all run out and we're outraged. Oh, the cops shouldn't have shot him. What the hell was he doing with the pound cake in his hand?
Yeah, there's a second part to it, but I think it's clear enough with that.
But now you see, when he said these people, that's that different talk.
Right.
We're different. It's these people, which, of course, we have issues. But when you separate yourself from the group, this is why nobody came riding for Bill Cosby when he got hemmed up. It's like, oh, okay.
He's going back out. He's going back out he's going to do a tour.
He has to, because I told you they only let him out of jail to drain his pockets. That was the whole point when we did the show. It was like, I got to pat myself on the back sometimes, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, I knew this is the only reason they let him out. is to say, okay, we got you, which there was no constitutional reasoning for them to have him, because you couldn't self-incriminate yourself that way. But it's like, now we got to let him out because we can't sue him while he's in jail.
Right. I'll give you a little woosah for that.
Woosah.
Woosah. We didn't forget, Mo. We remember.
Woosah. Woosah.
All right, so now we're going to fast forward and hear from one of the Little Rock Nine, and she received some of the most harshest abuse. And this is Megyn Kelly talking to her.
History Month, we remember that day in September of 1957 when 9 black teenagers enrolled in a white high school in Little Rock, Arkansas. The group of teens would become known as the Little Rock Nine, and their actions sparked one of the most pivotal moments of the civil rights movement. One of the Little Rock Nine is Melba Patillo Beals. Then she was a 15-year-old high school junior. Today, she is an accomplished author and retired university professor who joins us this morning live. But first, her memory of those days in her own words.
I was never up for the task. People who call us heroes and heroines have no idea that at 15, I was still in love with Johnny Mathis and Pat Boone. And so I was a typical teenager. I wanted what every other teenager wanted. Any new school you go to, you're going to have a problem. So I anticipated that initially they would not like us because we were outsiders. But my thought was, I have a ponytail, my shoes are polished. In my innocence, I thought, they will see that I am brighter than most of them. So what are they going to do, And by then, I knew who I was, and I know what I'm capable of, and I was self-assured in that way.
I didn't realize it, but there was more than half were girls, I think, of the Little Rock Nine.
Yes. Going back to what I said before about you had to have the right temperament.
Right.
You couldn't have 9 strapping young black men coming into a white. It had to be a certain, like I said, percentage of women, kids that wouldn't fight back, that could be, hazed and harassed and assaulted.
I'm going to ask Dreb Scott, who does the chapters for this show, if you're using a modern podcast app, newpodcastapps.com. That one of those pictures from the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. It's really cool. You see them all sitting there in a circle, like a study group, and it's just dressed to the T's. It's perfect. It was 6 to 9. Yep. I mean 6 to 3. That made up the twice as many females as males. Right.
So I'm wondering, did feminism have anything to do with that as well? Because with hiring black women, you get a double minority.
Yes.
So it's like, and people are like, well, you might be reaching there. No, these things are thought out in the decades and centuries.
Yeah.
Fast forward. But let's continue on with the abuse that this Sister Beals endured when she attended school.
I had written around Central High School since I was a baby, since I was little. And don't say I can't do something. That's what I'm going to do. Always, wheelchair walker or not, if you defy me and you say, you can't do that. I was born that way. And so they said, you can't go to this school. This school was 8 stories high with all the equipment. It was 8 square blocks in diameter. And I was going to this little teeny school where every September they bring over the 3-legged table, the greasy keyed, broken typewriter. And I said, now, wait a minute. Hey, who put them in charge? And Grandma would always say, if they knew better, they do better. God loves us equally. So I said, look here, Mom. I want them to come out and be in charge for 6 months. Let them do Jan to June and let me do July to December. If that's how it is, if God really loves us equal. And she would say, no. This is God's time and his way. And I just, So when they it's time to put your hand up to go to Central High School, despite any thoughts of tyranny or what's going to happen, I put my hand up.
Mm-hmm. So now you see that I have special gifts, and I'm going to use that gift to prove to people that we are smart. But the short-sightedness of this is that if you prove a racist that you're better than them, that doesn't gain favor with him. That only, now you're an uppity, you know what, and who do you think you are? Now it's, okay, you stepping out of your line, boy, or gal. You know what I'm saying? That's how they would put it. Mm-hmm. Which gal is a racist term. I want to let people know that too. You know what I'm saying? That just a microaggression, that's the equivalent to boy.
Oh, really?
For black women. Yeah.
Really?
So I always like to throw little things out there, you know what I'm saying, for people so you can have context to that. Yeah, because my mom used to get triggered when we go to restaurant. You know, I have guys and gals on the bathroom doors. It was like, oh, okay, no, I can't rock with that. But quick aside.
I didn't realize it. Thanks for. Is that still considered racist today?
I don't think it's well known, but and this is where generational things come in. And, that was the equivalent to that. So now it's amazing. Like the crowd was clapping and stuff. And you know what I'm saying? Like, and they bring us out. And now we're going to hear, I want you to listen to what Megyn Kelly thought she experienced versus what she actually experienced.
I put my hand up. I didn't really anticipate, so don't let me let you believe that I'm some great heroine that said, okay, I'll go there, get killed or not. No. I thought, well, they'll be mean. They'll call me names because they do that in any new school. They won't like my blouse. They won't like my hair.
But did you expect, no. The threats on your life, there were ropes people were holding, weapons, calling you the N-word. It was beyond
people
bullying.
Shooting through my living room window. People throwing acid in my eyes, people throwing lit paper over the bathroom stall. After about a day and a half there, I thought, integration is a much, much bigger word than I thought. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't understand what people were willing to do to avoid sitting by me. And I couldn't figure that out. All my life, God had said, you know what? My grandmother said, God has a picture of you on his refrigerator. He really likes you. Right? You're pretty. He really likes you. So why would you do that to keep from sitting beside me?
But when they put you in the school, they separated the 9 of you and said, you want integration, you got it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So you heard what Megyn said. Oh, they had ropes and throwing the N-word around.
That's Megyn's imagination. She's thinking something else, man. She's thinking today or whatever. I don't know.
Well, no, that's what you saw from the images.
It was much worse.
Right. Everybody was there when school first started, but the cameras left and these kids are still going to school. As you heard her say, threw acid in her eyes, try to set her on fire in the bathroom stall, shooting through her home. Window.
Yeah.
Why would you sign your children up for this? And I want to make one last point before we move on to the next phase of the show, is that in this situation, you heard her refer to her grandmother and her mother. There was no man in the house in this situation. Because no way in the hell
would
is my daughters.
Yeah.
Because you're going to make me kill somebody. You know what I'm saying? In the name of progress, if you do that to my child, you know what I'm saying? Like, or I'm going to be killed. So that's why a father would have put the kibosh on. Like, nah, we ain't going for that. Because I know how it ends.
Right.
But you have the, whimsical and, right, like you heard her say, they're just different. When you go to a different school, you get, you know what I'm saying, they be mean to the new kids. No, this is institutional, ingrained racism.
Yeah, it's an unbalanced household where that can happen.
Yeah, like I said, how that conversation, they want to do what? Nah, then pick somebody else's kid. You go back to the high school you went to because you're going to put me in a very, now when you were awkward situation.
When you were singled out, you were treasurer, good for the Freedom Riders. Was your dad there, or he was already working somewhere else, not in the house at the time?
No, my dad was there, but like this is where you would always get vetted when you came back from somewhere. like so how
what
was
happened?
it?
What happened? Right.
Yeah, and then you're like, yeah. Because it was, you see something, say something in the house. Like, if you see some craziness going on, you better tell us, or you would be just in much trouble or more trouble if, you know what I'm saying, if you didn't tell.
Mm-hmm.
So, but this thing happens, and I don't think people know how widespread this was. MSN, that was Math, Science, and Engineering Network. This is how you got the smarter kids, and you would go to school on Saturday and they'll bring you to college campuses and this kind of thing. This was the vetting system to figure out who the boule was, the next boule, you know. And once you got that, it's like, okay, then you would go off to college, and then the fraternities would come in, you know, and pick you.
How did you fail the test, Mo? What happened? How did you fail?
I'm gonna tell you like this: when I went to I failed the test. So I did this several times. One was, like I said, 4th grade, Miss Fushi class. They came in and said, Mo, we want you to go, you know what I'm saying, over to the special kids room. Not that special, but the AG, academically gifted class.
Oh.
And they brought me in there, and it was a weird vibe in the room. You know what I'm saying? They had like lamps instead of like the harsh fluorescent lights. They had like the Beethoven going, you know what I'm saying, softly. And the kids got to lay on like chairs and like sofas. It was weird. It was like a real nice environment, but it was strange because like it wasn't a typical classroom.
Right.
And I flunked the test on purpose. Because I didn't want to be separated from my regular class.
Sure.
And then moving forward to 7th grade, when they were like, they did the Freedom Rider thing, I'm like, you know, this is the time my dad had gave me Malcolm X, the autobiography. Right. I'm like, yeah, we go, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? We about to get it going.
Let's go.
Yeah. And then you bring me here and show me how to put condoms on bananas and stuff. It's like, what kind of freedom riding is this?
Well, we know what they're doing, programming you some smart skills to not recreate, procreate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I the vibe, and people might think I'm capping or putting on. No, it was the vibe with me. It's like, I don't want to be here every day in this class, or I don't want to be around these people. That's kind of...
This was 1988?
No, this was 4th grade would probably be 88. No. 4th grade would be 89, okay. 90.
Yeah.
and then go forward, you know what I'm saying, 3 years, 93.
Yeah, this is not ancient history, is my point.
Of course not. And they've come for my kids. They've come for them. Oh, we want to put nah.
Wow.
Nah, you're not going to segregate them all. No, because I know how that ends.
Mm-hmm.
And it like, you know, so moving forward, the point I want to make is when you do that, it creates a brain drain. Nobody really talks about it on a domestic scale. You hear about internationally, we're sucking all the intelligence out of India and all these other places.
Right.
But nobody ever talks about it, you know, the brain drain in the black community.
Third thing, they drain our talents. Those who are able to escape the ghetto, get a good education, and immediately go to work for Boeing, IBM, Dell, whoever. That drains talent, brain power from that same market. So if you look at it as a market, we've got a lot of challenges. And so therefore the small business person's got a lot of challenges because he's dealing with people that don't have the money and who won't conserve the money. So, you know, the black consumer, therefore, gets less for their money because they should have double duty dollars as the other communities have. That is, you not only get the shoes that you need, but you also bolster your community. We get the shoes, but not the community.
And that was Raymond V. Haysbert. He was he worked with he actually fought with the Tuskegee Airmen in World War II, and then he went on to be the CEO of Park Sausage Company, one of the first black CEOs of one of the largest black-owned businesses, you know, in America.
Yeah.
And he was aware of this, you know, until his passing in 2010, that it's a serious brain drain. And on top of that, what happens is, and this is going to be a whole show, so I'm just going to touch on this right quick. Now we start talking about reproductive behaviors. So if we can't get you not to reproduce, then you start reproducing interracially. Because if you're taken to predominantly white institutions, your odds of meeting somebody else is going to be high that they're going to be of another race. So this is, you see it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so we'll fix the problem that way.
Right, Brown Jackson. You saw that with her, where she met her husband at. She met him at Ivy League school, and Kamala Harris and all these other. I mean, this is And it's so sick in a way that they think they can create an acceptable form of black. You know, and this is what really, you know what I'm saying, irks me.
What always gets me, though, is when we talk about these things, and I completely agree with the statement you're making, but when you say they want, it's hard. It's a hard concept for people to grasp that you're telling me that people actually think this way consciously, and I don't think it's that necessarily. I mean, obviously, there's people who are running and you're putting the trauma in place and making and using this for psychological operations. But it's so hard to imagine that people would do that consciously.
And this is why I love doing this show, because it's hard for me not to think they would do this.
Yeah, gotcha.
I have a diametrically opposed,
sure, of course,
view of it, that, you know, this is intentional. Now, what their reasoning is, I humanize it. It's fight or flight. It's that it's either us or them. And the fact, like I said, the fact that they do it, and we've seen it, and they continue to do it. It's been pointed out, and they continue to do it. We saw that what happened with, we understand Tuskegee and everything like that, but then they come back with the vax. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, how can I not?
Yeah, we understand you got trauma, but take it anyway.
Right. In the way they come at us, dancing, rap songs. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, dude, not a serious conversation. It's like, oh, yeah, you know what I'm saying? The Sprite protein is like Pookie, you know what I'm saying, with the gang. You know, and he come through and just spray everything up. That's what the spike protein is. Like, why are you talking to me like that? And why are you using Tyler Perry to do it? You see what I'm saying? I cannot, and I wish I could.
I know you.
It's kind of like, I'll give you an example.
I know you as a friend to understand how you feel completely. And I, you know, especially we're back in the show, we're doing this. My head's like, oh, okay, yes, of course I get what you're saying.
And that's what's seductive about it, that you can get, not you, but people can say, you sure this is intentional? I mean, like, but when I say to you, like, all the things, it's kind of like when you first seen like this, it's a big play, you know, on everything, like the New World Order, wherever else. You kind of want to unsee it. It's like, nah.
It's hard. Okay. This became a lot easier for me in this year. And we've talked about this. The reason I started to look into the biggest conspiracy theory of all, Jesus, was he real? Is he real?
Right.
Is because of the obvious evil that's in the world. And if there's evil in the world, there's got to be a counterbalance. So for me, it's like, I can't believe in the good of God without knowing that there's the other side. And that's what's operating.
And just to lend to you my lens, imagine how every other religion you can't talk about. You know what I'm saying? You can't talk about Judaism. You can't talk about Islam. But Christians, you can run them up and down. You know what I'm saying? Like, it don't matter. You can say whatever you want. You can make mockery, all these other things. But if you say that about Muhammad or you're saying or Judaism, you get canceled. So when you start to see that, it's like, there's a conspiracy.
Yeah.
So I just say that. Moving on, Malcolm X, this is him, and he talks about whether we need to have integrated schools or not, and if they're beneficial.
Does your organization encourage members to attempt to enter schools that have been known as all white in the past?
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad doesn't discourage us from attending white schools, but he does say that it is better for us to go to our own schools, and after we have a thorough knowledge of ourselves, of our own kind, and racial dignity has been instilled within us, then we can go to anyone's school, and we'll still retain our race pride, our racial dignity, and we will be able to avoid the subservient inferiority complex that most Negroes have, or that is instilled within most Negroes who receive this sort of integrated education.
You have the subservient inferiority complex.
Yeah. So that's what's missing, is that racial pride and that racial underpinnings. I mean, we're having kids now. The mother takes them back to daycare at 6 weeks. They're raised in the daycare warehousing institution. You know what I'm saying? Up until public school, then they go to public schools. No sense of community. You know, I mean, just the average. Just say the average. We're not making this about single mothers or what. A single parent. The parent's off working. The child is raised by, you know, the daycare. There's no sense of community. You pick them up at 5 o'clock. You bring them home. You feed them. You play with them a little bit. I mean, there's no sense of community. The thing was, like, I'm like one of the last generations that had that sense of community, even though it wasn't like, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't perfect, but I know who I am. So when I went to school, I wasn't looking to be taught who I was. I was looking to be taught who I could become. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, but now it's like I go back to CRT for a minute. You're a victim. That's the oppressor. You know what I'm saying? And this is your lot in life. Imagine being raised like that. You know what I mean? And nobody's countering that. So,
except us here on this show. Hello. We're giving it a good go.
Well, you want to remind the people what we actually do?
Yes, and it was interesting. The pastor at the church here said, "Hey, you know, you talk about these podcasts. What's this Moe guy? So you should listen to this show." and I ran through it. I said, you know, what we're doing here is exactly what Malcolm X said.
First, the white man and the black man have to be able to sit down at the same table. The white man has to feel free to speak his mind without hurting the feelings of that Negro. And the so-called Negro has to feel free to speak his mind without hurting the feelings of the white man. Then they can bring the issues that are under the rug out on top of the table and take an intelligent approach to get the problem solved. That's the only way that they'll ever do it.
And that's exactly what I said. I said, you know, listen to this. And all of a sudden it became clear. That makes a lot of sense. I said, yeah, we just got to that level right away. No problem whatsoever. And I've learned more because of our open and honest conversation than I ever thought possible. I thought I knew. And
you've given me a lens into a world I didn't know. No part. I mean, like we say, I met Deion Sanders. I know this person, or you know what I'm saying. It's like, okay, that's how that operates. You know what I'm saying? Or
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This is value for value, and although we've been irregular recently, you know, as we're waving goodbye to 2022, 2023 has a lot of good things in store, and we really appreciate people supporting this show in the only way that is possible. We cannot take corporate money. The advertisers will never touch this. We're lucky to be podcasting 2.0 to even still be on the air as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure that we'd have all kinds of issues. So we appreciate the support you give us, and the way it works is whatever you take away from this podcast, if you find it valuable for whatever reason, whatever that value is to you, send it back to us. That's all that we ask. We feel that this is something of value. We can't look at anyone's pocketbook or circumstance. So $5 may be a lot for you. If that's the value and it's a lot for you, we appreciate it. Really do. And we'd like to thank these people as our executive and associate executive producers. So these are coming mainly from show 87. We have the lucky 88 today, which the Chinese would consider lucky. In other places, 88 is a whole other thing that we.
Yeah, it is, right?
I just realized, like, 88 is not always lucky for everybody. But we want to kick it off by thanking Jim Lavin. Jim Lavin, without a doubt.
Baller, shot caller, 20-inch blades on the Impala.
$1,000. We could not be more grateful for that, Jim. He says, love what you and Adam are doing, Mo. I've learned a lot. It's been a while, but I need to give you a little something. Hold on a second. Expand my spreadsheet here. I'm sorry. Oh, goodness. This is a long note here. How did I hold on? I got to reposition this. Let me just reformat. I hadn't even seen how long this is beautiful, these notes.
I don't think it's long, is it?
No, it's just it went long. It went off the screen for me is what happens. Going off
physically
the screen.
long.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, hold on a second. This is okay. It's been a while, but I need to give you a little something to keep you moving forward from Sir Otaku, Duke of Northeast Texas and the Red River Valley. And is there something else he says here? The Red River Valley. From the No Agenda Nation. There we go. $1,000. We really appreciate that, Jim. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir.
James Lawler comes in at $200 for an executive producership. It's been too long for me, brothers. back at you. May God bless you with this and help you in this next chapter of life. Karma, love, peace, and joy to you and Adam as well. Thank you very much, sir.
Can I say something right there?
Please do.
With the too long. Longer show, better show.
Oh, yeah, no, I
want to say, I just want to let people, I listened to 104 separate pieces of information to put this show together, some ranging up to 3 hours. So I'm just saying, the longer the show, it's not that I stopped working on it, it's that, okay, now I got to go back up your age. You know, Adam, I'm making changes up as the show is going on.
Oh, yeah.
Even with the swapping of clips, it's because I want to make the best product possible for the producers.
And just to clarify what I was talking about, it was too long for the spreadsheet. I hadn't formatted it, so it went off the page.
I was speaking about James.
No, I know
James's state. Yeah,
yeah, I got you. Taylor Butcher, $200 value for value. How do I send the note? You just did, Taylor. So do whatever you were doing. That worked perfectly. We appreciate it.
Also, send one to mofactz.com. mofactz@gmail.com. If you want to, we want to address your actual note.
Yes.
So we'll read it on the next show.
Now we have 3 in a row from Tavia Willis. I think I'm pronounced that correctly. So we got a 50, a 50, and a 5. So that's 105 combined. That is definitely executive producer territory. And Tajvia says, I'm binging, bringing the value. Thank you. And you're a smooth cat. Keep it up. Well, that's obviously for you. Well, there you go. Kyle Mann. I think it's Kyle, not Kylie. I think it's Kyle. $100. No note, but thank you so much. Josiah Hendrickson. 88. Well, right on target for this one. GBG, y'all. Wait, didn't we have a jingle for GBG?
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
yes, we do.
Yeah, see, I remember some of that. We got the GBG.
We have a talent.
Give blacks guns, y'all. Thank you very much, Josiah. Melissa Reeves, 85.89. Services rendered and so forth. Now, this says 16 donations?
16 separate donations. She's boosting through the fiat way.
Nice. Yeah, just sending one after another. I love that. Thank you. Thank you very much, Melissa. That's great. Brandon Archer, 85. Free Ye and Kyrie. Well, they're free men, I guess. Ye is a free man for sure. Kyrie,
yep.
Well, he's still got some work to do, probably. It's not easy for Kyrie. Anonymous, $60. Thanks. Looking forward to hearing the next one. Your wish has come true. Here we are. Thank you very much, Anonymous. Dame Slamey. Merry Christmas to you and your families, Mo and Adam. Cheers to a better 2023. $50. Dame Slamey, thank you. She is all over Gitmo Nation, No Agenda Nation, Moe Factz, everywhere. We love her. A big supporter of all of the shows. $50 from Benjamin. Missing you and the great Adam Curry. Here we are. You can always count on us to come back eventually, and we're doing our best. We really are. Capital T sends $50. Donated before. I've listened because the show title already reveals this is going to be worth it. Good to have you back, Mo. That was the previous episode. What was the title of the previous one? What did we title that?
Yay and They?
Oh, Yay and They. Of course. Everybody loved that. These, by the way, are associate executive producers at the $50 level. And we have Edwin Torres also asking for a GBG.
We have a talent.
Give the black guns. James Poulos, $50. No note. Thank you very much. We have Jermaine Costin with $50. Says, love your show. Wanted to share a relevant story I experienced while visiting New Orleans. I'm a racially ambiguous half black, ADOS. I assume that was the culture I grew up in as a kid, and half white. I've been to NOLA twice and have often noticed strange reactions from people because of my skin color and hair. I feel somewhat of a novelty. I learned on museum tours about NOLA's rich history and as a melting pot of varying cultures. In fact, the Arcadians of French descent who migrated to Louisiana eventually became Cajuns because of the Louisiana accent. While staying in a hostel with my girlfriend, I learned from the locals about the octoroon. Basically, back in the day, brothels used to have menus based on appearance, hair texture, skin color, etc. By the way, Thailand still has that. The most expensive item on the menu was the octoroon, who was so mixed that you couldn't tell what her racial background was. Thanks for your great work. I'm doing my best to spread the word. God bless. From Jermaine. Wow, have we talked about the octoroon? I don't remember this.
I think we talked about it, not specifically, but I'm saying in those terms, but we talked about it in passing, on the passing episode with Pinky.
Also, I would say that New Orleans right now has become incredibly woke. Mm-hmm. So, it may not be the New Orleans of lore. So, how you're looked at, I don't know. I mean, what do you think, Mo?
Well, as he spoke to, New Orleans was a very mixed place. And you had the clear, the Cajuns, and then you had the octoroons. Octoroon means you're 1/8. Right?
Right.
1/8 black.
Right.
Quadroon means you're 1/4 black. Mm-hmm. Mulatto means you're half black. And that goes to the one drop rule, because if you're 1/16, then you could venture over into being white again.
Right.
That was I'm saying that's the legal one drop definition for the one drop rule. So this is why the octoroon was the highest thing, and this is the hierarchy I'm talking about. This is just another version of you're different.
Yeah. Right, different and special. Octoroon.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yep.
Matt B, $50. Episode 87 was worth 10 listens. Right up there with the Tupac work. Wow, man. Thank you. There you go, Mo. That's a big compliment. Michael Romano, $50. Appreciate that, Michael. Scott R with $50. And he says, here's another donation. Appreciate that. Now, we're going to get to the donations below the $50 level. We still are very appreciative, but we break these segments into two. I did just want to read Carol Chase's note. It's $40.
Which this is a repeat. I put it on the last show, but I put it intentionally again for the other show, probably for the same reason you're going to read it.
Well, I wanted to read it. It was really beautiful. Mm-hmm. I'm a listener, subscriber, and donor to the Moe Factz with Adam Curry. I haven't seen an episode drop for a while. I'm wondering how you're doing. Is there anything I can be praying for you and your family? Carol Ann, Baroness of Southern Colorado. Yeah, absolutely. I would appreciate any prayers that would get our show as regular as possible. We've had a lot of challenges, life challenges, technical challenges. I mean, health challenges, so many things. And we discuss this all the time. This is the hardest show to make. Not that it's hard to do once we're doing it. It's hard to do because it's like a wedge is always driven between us somehow. Would you agree?
I would totally agree. We experience some things that you can't even explain in the setting up and recording of the show. But I think one of the greatest forms of value, if not the greatest, is to pray. And for the non-prayers, we're sending well wishes, because that's hopefully it manifests itself, with your good intentions. So keep it coming. That's why I put this note in for a second time.
Yeah, I appreciate
that. Because even if you don't have value to share, you always have value to share. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Just send prayer and well wishes our way.
That's highly, highly appreciated. I'll also run through our boosters real quick, since the numbers have grown since we last did the show, which is nice to see. Dreb Scott sent us 200,001 Satoshis, which is a huge boost for us. And of course, Dreb already does stuff for us in value and with time and talent doing the chapters. Now you can, and this is the future, by the way. Eventually, just look at the news about PayPal and everything else. It may get very difficult to support this show in that manner. So go to newpodcastapps.com. Get one of the podcast apps that does value for value. I'll make it easy for you. Fountain, Podverse, Cast-O-Matic. These are the ones that I like a lot. You can put little bits of Bitcoin in that. You can fill it up from your Cash App. It's not that hard anymore. Fountain, if you've never done it before, might be the easiest to get the hang of it. This is, and you can do this while you're listening. You can say, "Oh, this is great. I just want to hit the boost button. I want to send a message," and it pops up, and we can read it back here. So I'll just run through these. Dreb says, "Feeding the fax machine to see if any new shows pop out." He says, "I miss you." He said, "I miss you guys," and he says, "What is it? Go podcasting." Okay, very much. Thank you very much, Dreb. Dreb, who gives in so many ways. We have Jacob Davis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 123,456. Thanks for a great show. Always appreciate your measured discussions and ability to talk about things that no one else would. The discussion in Yay is especially enlightening. 100,001 from Absurdient with just a big fire emoji. Thank you. Sir Dwayne Melanson, who doesn't know him. Yay or they, fantastic, well worth waiting for. Just wow. 90,000 sats, and he sent that from Cast-O-Matic. iOS only, but if you like Overcast, you'll love Cast-O-Matic. Hendrix, 88,888, right for this show. Here's for my episode. Where's my episode 88, he says. You got it, brother. Here it is. Here it is. We have 80,085 from RGBTC. As always, fascinating conversation. I'd love some Mo Karma. There you go.
You've got
Mo Karma.
JLTA from Texas, I guess. I sent 3 in a row, 51,000, 41,000, 35,220. Oh, for another one, and 35,000. So that's probably worth a big baller combined. Nice.
Shot caller, 20-inch blaze on the Impala.
33,333, the magic numbers from Sarzo. Thank you always for giving me new perspective, paying attention to everything. That's right. The truth will reveal itself. Gene Everett, 33,000, says, boost. We got you, man. And there's JLTATXT again, 29,500. Merlin with 20,000 coming from Podfriend. Haven't seen that one in a while. Good to see it. Hey, Adam, not sure if you can use this, but the chorus from Hell to the Gnaw by Bishop Bullwinkle would become your most popular jingle. I didn't see that in time. Otherwise, I picked it up. That's RGBTC with 18,000. Hey, citizens, 16,969 says thank you. A big boost from Clarkian with 15,000. 13,000 from, I think it's one in Island 1. You have big fans in Hawaii. Thank you. We'll come out and do a meetup. 12,345 from Anonymous Castamatic. Todd in Northern Virginia, right up in your neck of the woods, gives us a satchel of Richards. 11,111. Satchel of Richards, of course, also could be read as a bag of dicks. So we understand that. Thank you. B Glass 2, great show. Missed you this past month. 10,087. Mitch sent in from Podverse. I think he owns Podverse. 10,000 sats. Then we have Dave Ackerman, 3 in a row. He's always boosting the 8,008, his favorite boob donation, and it's V for V, episode 87, 3 times in a row. Thank you very much, sir. 7,620 from Kai Patriot 1776. Give blacks heavy machine guns. GBHMGs. Armed minorities are not oppressed. Okay, we got to have a new jingle for the heavy machine guns.
Let's get some of that Ukraine business.
Yeah. All you have to do is just go online. You can order it these days. It's real easy.
I got a sweatshirt.
Yeah. Orange Pig came in a couple times with 5,000 in a row from Breeze. Appreciate that. So did Sir Jack. We got The Dish with 3,333. Texas Comrade, thank you for your courage with 3,333. Donating some of the sats I've earned by listening to great podcasts like this. Thanks to Adam calling out how you earned them on Fountain. That's Joel Div. Yes, even if you have no Bitcoin, the Fountain app, well, just by listening to other podcasts, will help you earn some, which you could turn around and send to us. Chad Farrow, big 2.0 supporter, 3,333. Chad, again, with the same amount. I'm glad you guys talk openly and honestly about topics like this. And that was also for Yay and They. Keep up the good work from Anonymous with 2,500. Great conversation. Nomad Joe, thank you, 2,500. Brian of London, 1948. That's his Israeli freedom boost. Maybe laugh. You playing a clip from I-24, Israel 24. I used to do a few hits on I-24. Interestingly, the last time I was on was a couple of years after Brexit when I said the EU was founded by Nazis and communists. That was the last time I was on the show.
Imagine that.
Wow, I wonder why. And we'll leave it with this last one at 1,500. My wallet was empty for the first 33 minutes, but blew it all out. There you go. And that goes to Moe Factz with Adam Curry. Really appreciate it. The list is too long, so we make a cutoff at 1,000 Satoshis, but you know what to do. Value for value. Go get a modern podcast app and newpodcastapps.com. We really would appreciate that. It's the way of the future for us, for sure. And also, of course, you can still go to mofactz.com, go to the donation page. You can go directly at mofundme.com, and you'll see all these different options, including PayPal. We do like the Fiat Fund coupons as long as they are still valid and available. And thank you all so much for supporting Moe Factz with Adam Curry, episode number 88.
All right, so with schools being integrated, sports had to be integrated as well. And I think that's why when you heard Jerry Jones say he got in trouble with his coaches, they stand to benefit from the increased pool of talent that was right there in Arkansas. So I'm sure they had no issue, other than, the typical racial things, but they stood to get a lot of talent to come to that school. Now we got to fast forward. This is the football game that broke racial barriers, and it was against Alabama, which was a predominantly white institution that hadn't integrated yet, against USC, University of Southern California, who had integrated well before Alabama had. Mm-hmm. And this is another setup, as you will hear as we go through these next 5 clips, of these things are not happenstance. They're oftentimes orchestrated. And let's go ahead and get into clip number 23.
In 1954, Brown versus Board of Education overturned the separate but equal policy in schools, and the 1964 Civil Rights Act ended public racial discrimination. But although the federal government mandated integration, attitudes hadn't changed. And in the South, Jim Crow continued to haunt college football. As late as 1969, the southernmost teams in the SEC were still completely white.
A lot of great players from the South were either had to play at the historically black institutions, or if they wanted to play in the major universities, they had to go out west or go up north. So a lot of talent was leaving the Southeastern Conference.
The South was starting to see some of their programs go down a little bit, but the University of Alabama maintained their dominance. They won 3 national championships in 1961, 64, and 65, and should have won in 66. So what this did was it created in the minds of Alabama football fans and fans in the SEC the idea that you didn't need to desegregate.
Okay. This is great history.
Yeah, and as you see, it's all connected. You know, starting with Brown, you see the ripple effects of that one piece of legislation and court action to affect all walks of life. So the funny thing is that the SEC, the Southern, Southern? Oh, I'm going to lose my sports card. Southeastern Conference, I would think is what it stands for. They're right in the South, where all Texas, that can include that, Louisiana, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida. That's football talent, ground zero.
Right.
And these teams were like, no. Alabama was like, we don't care. We rather win with white talent than to integrate. And that goes to show you that they rather put winning over breaking their tradition for whatever reason. Let's just say breaking their traditions. And that's where they kept it. And we see this even with sports today. There are quote unquote white teams. Even to this day, the Utah Jazz, for instance, they like having a predominantly white star. Dallas Mavericks is another one. Mark Cuban loves having a white star. That's kind of like Dirk Nowitzki, and now you have Luka Doncic. Yeah.
I mean, you really think he loves having a white star? Is that he loves that? Or you think he just loves having a star?
Trust me, in sports. Okay. No, because it's this phenomenon called the Great White Hype. I don't know if you heard it. You hear it in boxing or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. You're saying like it's. I don't think he personally feels that way, but he understands his demographic and his fans. And if you can have a star, I mean, you have to be, first qualification is a star. You know what I'm saying? You have to be great at what you're doing. Mm-hmm. But then when you, Boston, Larry Bird, the same thing. Larry Bird, and in Boston hit a little different, you know what I'm saying, with the combining that with the city's attitude and it being a white athlete.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. Utah, you were saying you have John Stockton.
It's noticeable, even for me. I look at who's this team? Oh, that's Utah. Okay.
Right. Yeah. For whatever reason, like we said, this is you see this happen.
It's so interesting they're called the Jazz, is where I would say that few jazz greats were white. That's kind of interesting.
No, where they moved from New Orleans.
Oh, there you go. But still,
they used to be the New Orleans Jazz, but they kept the Jazz. That would baffle me as a kid. Like, why do Utah Jazz? Like
they took the name, but they left the Jazz out.
Right, because usually the city mascot is something that lends to what the city's known for. Right. And a few jazz greats come from Utah, which so So moving forward, you see what's playing out here is that the predominantly the schools that refused to integrate are starting to drop in status. But they needed a little help, to push them down as well, as you're going to hear, I think, in clip 24, I believe.
Not only was Alabama enjoying success with all-white football teams, but the state was governed by a man who deliberately played the race card to win his election, and who kept a close public relationship with Coach Paul Bryant.
Clearly, that was George Wallace's way of advertising, see what an all-white football team can do. What we didn't know was that the relationship between Bear Bryant and George Wallace was very uneasy. That in fact, Bryant had been needling and pushing and probing, trying to integrate the Alabama football team for many years.
We were conspiring as much as we could without rattling the governor's situation. And I think that speaks well of Coach Bryant. We're a state institution. The governor is not ready for integration yet. A lot of our funds come from the state of Alabama, from the capital, and we would like to be successful, but we're going to hurt the general public, the students and the faculty.
Wow. We were conspiring.
Yes, I heard it.
And you know who George Wallace is. I don't know if you know who Bear Bryant is or not.
Wallace, yes. Brian, no.
You've seen him before. You've seen his image and likeness in a movie for Forrest Gump.
Oh,
remember the football coach at Alabama?
Yeah, sure.
That was him. He's known for that houndstooth hat.
Yes. Okay, I got you.
And in here, I think they're doing a little bit of cleaning up his image with his piece as well, because he's very valuable to the University of Alabama's legacy. So you see, you have to clean up, like kind of rewrite history in a certain way. Not saying he wasn't pushing for talent, but they make him seem like this benevolent person that had this insight to say, you know what, we need to integrate schools.
Yeah.
If you listen to it, even the nuance and how they're saying, we were conspiring and him and Wallace really wasn't on the same page together.
No big deal. Just a little conspiracy.
Okay. They said it. I didn't say it. They said it. We were conspiring.
I hear you.
So on with the conspiracy.
Despite championships in the early 60s, the racial factor was beginning to hurt Alabama's stature. Bryant's team finished the 1966 season unbeaten and untied, yet placed third in the polls. The nation was simply not going to reward an all-white team that had become the flagship for segregation. By the late 1960s, the Crimson Tide was turning, and after a subpar 69 season, they were no longer reminiscent of a championship team.
At 69, there were people calling for his resignation. He said the game had passed him by. It was time for Coach Bryant to go.
We knew we had to get bigger, stronger, faster players. And a large majority of the bigger, stronger, faster players were black.
We did have an African-American on the team, but he was a freshman and didn't dress. Wilbur Jackson, I think it was coming, and Coach Bryant was, allowing it to happen slowly.
It was finally time for Bryant to make his move, to convince people that in order to start winning again, Alabama was going to have to fully commit to integration. But to do so, he needed to set an example.
So, once again, you hear this. They needed bigger, stronger, faster players, and and a large number of those were black players. And another thing I want to point to was go back, because you don't know sports. College football, at least in this era, and up until maybe 10, 15 years ago, the AP voted on, Associated Press voted on who was the number one team. You have a bunch of sports writers and they vote, and whoever got the most votes was the champion. Yeah. This is how he could go undefeated, untied, but become number 3. Because you heard him say America couldn't stand for, him winning, being segregated. So they had to lean. When you talk about they, this is the they. the media was leaning on Alabama because once you start winning national championships, the top players don't want to come to your school anymore because you're like, well, they're not the players want to go play at the best school. And that started to make the deterioration of the school. And that's why he felt hard pressed to take action in the way he did.
Got it.
So I'm just showing you how not the media, that was the media interfering to push their narrative.
Well, of course.
So I think we stopped at 25. Mm-hmm. Let's go ahead and go to 26.
The number one team in the 60s, USC, had a fully integrated roster, including a black quarterback and a black assistant coach. One day, prior to the 1970 season, head coach John McKay asked his assistant Craig Fertig for a lift to LAX airport for an unexpected meeting.
In walks Coach Bryant with that houndstooth hat on that's back here. And he walked in and they, hi, Paul, hi, John. Paul, what's this about? John, how y'all like come down to Birmingham, play us in the opener? Coach says, what are you going to pay me? And he says, $150,000. Coach smokes his cigar and he says, I'll tell you what, Paul, we'll come down and play you in the opener if you'll come out the following year and play us in L.A. and I'll give you $250,000. And I'm sitting there and they said, bring us another round there. And I sat in on history and I didn't realize it at the time.
Huh.
There's your conspiracy.
Right?
Come down and beat the crap out of us.
Right.
At our home stadium in front of all the racist white folks. And they'll get the picture that we need black players. Not taking into fact what those black players were going to go through while they're there. None of that. Man. It was that it's for my benefit and to continue with my legacy and my career. And it's done over drinks.
And this was what year?
1971, I want to say.
Wow.
I believe it was 71. So I'm just saying, like 71, 9 years before I was born.
I hope a lot of sports fans out there are paying attention to this.
This is why sports is one of the most fascinating draws for entertainment, because it's actually go on the field, the court, wherever else, and may the best man win. Right? That's why sports is what they call a level playing field.
Yeah.
It's legitly a level playing field because sports has a rule book and society has a rule book. If you want to play it right, it's called the Constitution of America. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? It's let's play by the rule book. That's all we're saying. Separate but equal. Let's play by the rule book. We have this. You have 11 players. We have 11 players.
You're right.
You get to wear a helmet. We get to wear a helmet. You know, and then we see how it plays out. But as you see, it's conspiracies that go on. And
shenanigans.
This is, and was it for a greater good? Who knows? But nobody's benevolent in this. Oh, Bear Bryant woke up one morning. You know what? I have a moral obligation to let black players play for me. No, it was for which in nothing wrong with that being self-serving. I have no issue with that. It's the fact don't sell it like something else. That's the issue I had with anybody.
Right, but it's not like that has changed in 2022, 2023. It's just, maybe, well, here we go. We're talking about sports right now with the current story.
And this is why Jerry Jones was in such a predicament, because he has to sign top level black talent to come play for Dallas. His quarterback is black. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The CEO of his team being the quarterback, that's the CEO of it, is a black man. You know what I'm saying? I think he's biracial, but still he's black. The top offense, I'm saying like 80, 70, 85% of the team is black. If this carries out the wrong way, he could have mutiny right on his team. And this was the goal, I believe, in my view, of when that attack was set on him. It's like, let's shake up the Dallas Cowboys, nothing else, and maybe even the whole NFL.
Wow, I'm not a sports guy, but maybe I have to start paying more attention, not to the game. I'll watch it for all the other stuff.
This is why they can talk about it for the 6 days they're not playing.
Right.
This is what they talk about. It's a whole channel called ESPN. They got to fill it up It's 4 or 5 ESPNs.
Yeah.
What do they talk about? All of these sub narratives, everything. I mean, it's politics and race and gender and all these other things. And you see, it's nothing new. That's why they act like something that's capping it with something new under the sun. No, these things have been going on all the way. Go back to Jack Johnson. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, in boxing, you know what I'm saying, in the early 1900s.
Sure.
There was legislation, you know what I'm saying, create the Mann Act, you know, to entrap him in certain ways. I'm just saying this is bigger than sports, but sports is a huge thing in America. It's a very huge thing. So let's, if you add something to it, if not, we can go ahead and continue on with the final part of the conspiracy.
Yeah, what I was going to say is I have to think, and I'd love to hear from some of our producers, if this is also the case with soccer, as an example. If you look at the French team, I mean, if you had 1 second to look at any World Cup soccer, French team, all black guys, all black. Now they're African,
right?
You know, from origin, of course, which is all French. But there's, I wonder how that plays into sports in general. It's not. I don't know if
it plays into a huge part.
Yeah.
It plays into a huge part, and that's just think. If you were to take some of the top NFL and NBA black players and start teaching them at soccer at age 4, nobody would beat American soccer. I mean, it's just that there's other sports to play here. You know what I'm saying? Especially for that segment of society, you know what I'm saying, that has these superior athletic talents. So it's like once you start getting that factored in, and if soccer is super expensive too, you know, America will be dominant in soccer the same way the Europeans got on it quick. You know, they like I said, they don't stick to their national players. They go outside, you know, racially national. Let me say it like that, because some of those guys are born there, but they don't care. They go wherever the talent is, which that's how it should be. It's like,
but I don't care where you're born. Sure. I'm not so sure. That's why
What do you mean?
I'm not so sure that they only do where the talent is. I'm not so sure. I'd want to see if there's any racial element to some other sports like that outside of the U.S. The U.S. I get it.
Right.
I'm just curious. You know, it seems there's a lot more to sports than I ever considered. Certainly in the United States.
And if you're gonna put together a long distance team, you got to go get the Kenyans. You know what I'm saying? Like,
if you're running,
that just goes to show you. You know what I'm saying? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's this Kenyan racing team, right? Running team, right? It's like they're done giving high fives. Everybody else is running. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
So I'm just saying, it's with genetics. You have certain genes. You know what I'm saying, that bring themselves out, you know, to show superior talent in certain things.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and wrap up with the last clip in this set.
On September 12, 1970, USC met Alabama on Legion's Field for what would become the first integrated college football game played in Alabama.
I listened to that game on radio, and you know, of course, we all know Southern Cal had a bit of a field day in that game. Sam Cunningham just ran up and down the field.
We played 8 linebackers trying to find one that could tackle him, and we never found one that could tackle him.
Cunningham ran for 135 yards and scored 2 touchdowns on only 12 carries. The final score was 42-21. The Crimson Tide had lost the football game, but was starting to win the war on segregation.
Bryant reacted to this game by shaking John McKay's hand at halftime and thanking him for bringing his team all the way out to Birmingham to help his program. Quote, help our program, end quote.
That sort of signaled the beginning for recruitment of African-American players in the Southeastern Conference. And I know a lot has been written, a lot of speculation, but I don't have any question in my mind that it was all planned by Coach Bryant.
He's got a spot in Alabama like Martin Luther King does in the world. He left a legacy that will never be matched.
So now we got to get to the 5,000-pound gorilla in the room, or elephant.
All right.
Genetics. and sports. Why is it that 85% of the NBA is Black American? You know, why is it that NFL is such high percentage? You see what I'm saying?
Well,
and from a certain location in America. Go ahead.
My answer would be similar to why are some of the best soccer players from poor South American countries is because that's from the minute they're born, that's the only thing they can really excel at, and that's what they're doing all day long. They live, eat, breathe soccer, and that creates great players. I would say there's some of that with American sports. It's just I think it's social circumstances and what you focus on to get out. Poverty more often than not, probably poverty.
And I agree with you that it's nature. I mean, it's nurture.
Nurture versus nature.
But nature also plays a role in it, because this is what nobody wants to talk about in sports, and this is why Colin Kaepernick, he played with this trope and meme, NFL being a plantation and that kind of thing. But they measured these guys from pinky to thumb. How big is your hand? How high can you jump? It was like every metric they know.
Sure.
And the genesis of that is the slave trade. Nobody wants to talk about this, and this will get you canceled. This would get you canceled back in the 80s if you brought this up, because of how Black people were bred like animals in this country.
So
nobody wants to talk about.
All right, now hold on a second. So okay, fair. You're saying that this is genetics that was initially engineered by during the slave trade, and once that's engineered, it stays and it continues through the bloodline.
It's in the gene pool, and the thing about it's like this: we got to think about gene. And it took me a long time how to think of an analogy, how I could illustrate, because of course people are going to get into their emotions of, what are you saying, Mo? All Black people are genetically, you know what I'm saying? No, that's not what I'm saying. Genetic pool is like a lottery. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, think about the lottery balls, right?
Yeah.
When you only have 6 or 7 numbers that come out, but it's like 60 numbers in there. You see what I'm saying? You might get some good set of balls. and don't let me laugh. You know what I'm saying? Because just out of the draw of the luck, and this is what they call, people say, oh, you won a genetic lottery. You hear people say this all the time. Oh, you won a genetic lottery. Being tall, or, you know what I'm saying, or handsome, or whatever, attractive, whatever else. The thing was the creation of an American slave was they stacked the lottery balls. You know, and that's why it comes out more often.
Okay, so
in our race.
All right. So if I were to say, wow, you know, these guys, I mean, just look at him. This is from genetics. He got it from his gene pool, and boy, are we lucky to have him on the team. Who would agree with me if I said that?
You would get canceled.
That's what I'm thinking.
You would get canceled immediately.
That's what I'm thinking.
And I'm going to show you the difference, because like in football, you have these football families. You know what I'm saying? Especially linemen, because linemen are big guys. And you're like, oh, you know what I'm saying? His dad played and his uncle, like the Otto family. Just throw out his name. You know what I'm saying? This might not be a real, you know, the Ottos, you know what I'm saying? They come from a long line of football family. No problem. But it's very careful when you get to the Black side. And have you ever heard of Jimmy the Greek? Let's progress the show a little bit.
Have I heard of Jimmy the Greek? I was doing radio in New York City when this happened in 89, 80, something around that time. Yeah. Oh, I remember this.
Even back then, he got canceled for what he said. I want to show you the news report.
I remember canceled. This. I was in New York City. I remember this. This was huge news.
This is why I love doing the show, because, like I said, this is, I get the inside scoop on what. But listen to how the news frames why he got in trouble and possibly fired, And then we're going to go back and listen to what he actually said.
Reporter from WRC-TV was asking questions about Martin Luther King's birthday and the progress blacks have made in society. There, CBS sports commentator Jimmy the Greek Snyder gave his impressions of blacks in coaching in the National Football League. His answers could raise as much controversy as the statements by former Dodgers executive Al Campanis last April on ABC's Nightline news program.
Yeah, pretty soon they're going to have to equalize it for the blacks, for the Greeks, the Jews, and for everybody. I mean, let's make it equal for everybody, you know.
And is it equal? What about in sports?
Well, they've got everything. If they take over coaching like everybody wants them to, there's not going to be anything left for the white people. I mean, all the players are black. I mean, the only thing that the whites control is the coaching jobs. Now, I'm not being derogatory about it, but that's all that's left for them. The black talent is beautiful. It's great. It's out there. So the only thing left for the whites is a couple coaching jobs.
Yeah, maybe we need to get more black coaches.
Oh, it's all right with me. Okay, well, I'm sure that they'll take over that pretty soon, too.
WRC was apparently flooded with complaint calls after the Snyder comments were aired. Snyder issued an apology saying he was truly sorry for anything he said. CBS spokesperson said no decision has been made as to whether Snyder will work Sunday's NFL Today broadcast. Snyder is spending the night with Gene Upshaw, the Players Union executive director in Washington, and he has received support calls from Walter Payton and Ahmad Rashad.
Oh, man. Yes, it's all Ahmad Rashad. And he got some shit for that, too.
Of course he did, because just like when Jerry Jones came out, and Stephen A. Smith came out caping for Jerry Jones, you always have people you can call, like, hey, Stephen A., I need a solid. You know what I'm saying? Ahmad, I need a solid.
Sure. But what I remember, now I'm just trying to think to this time, because this I think was the actual problem, that he said, well, you know, what's going to be left for the Jews and the white guys? You know, we got and the Italians. What are we going to have left? We're not going to be in the sport. But he got canceled, I guess, or fired or whatever for a different comment.
And I'm glad we land this out like this. This is what Podcast Gold is all about. What do you remember him being canceled for?
For saying that, well, obviously the black athletes are superior because of their breeding as slaves, and they were bred to be powerful machines. I'm paraphrasing. It's a long time ago.
That's pretty close for a paraphrase. But notice the news clip left that part out.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's a vintage news clip, unedited. We really found on YouTube.
You missed a lot there.
Right. So now I had to go to Stoner Man. It's a YouTube channel, and forgive the music, but he's going to get into Jimmy the Greek being canceled. Part 1 and Part 2. This is the first part.
Stoner Man presents Jimmy the Greek, the first canceled broadcaster. Caution, comments may be triggering or hilarious, depending on your perspective.
The black is the better athlete, and he's bred to be the better athlete, because this goes back all the way to the Civil War, when during the slave trading, the slave owner would breed his big black to his big woman, so that he could have a big black kids.
In Washington today, the local NBC television station interviewed people about the state of race relations on this Martin Luther King's birthday.
Jimmy the Greek Snyder is in hot water tonight over some remarks he made today about black athletes.
Well, they've got everything. If they take over coaching like everybody wants them to, there's not going to be anything left for the white people. The black is a better athlete to begin with, because he's been bred to be that way, because of his high thighs. And I don't want this on. There isn't much left for the white guys.
And the fallout was very swift.
Right. Yeah, that was it. It was the high thigh. That was the kind of like the meme. That was the thing that stuck, the high thigh. And what?
Right.
You mean you're saying they're genetically different?
They were genetically reproduced. And this is the misconception people have about slavery. Like that you had slaves in their little slave cabins with their little slave families. And it's like, all right, honey, I'm going out to slave. You know, and they go walk out the house and like, I'll see you when you get home. No, it was scientific. And I got to stop using that word. It was husbandry. It was like, oh, you got a thoroughbred horse? Bring him on over here. And I know this because I own a thoroughbred American bully. And his genetics can be transferred.
You're saying the right thing. Husbandry. It exists today. We don't think 2 seconds about the Hindus, about Indians. There's husbandry. It's like
that's the goal of arranged marriage is to put people together. That way they reproduce a better lineage, or better progeny. I think is the word.
Flip it on its head. Why is it taboo to marry your cousin? Because you get the opposite, so we're told.
Correct.
You get mongrel, retarded offspring.
But you don't want to have this conversation. And I'm glad you made that point, because what is the South known for? West Virginia. Oh, you're married to your cousin. You're married to that stereotype is okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is what the Northerners thought they were dealing with when they came down south. Oh, they're cousin effers or whatever. I'm saying, like, where do we get these stereotypes from?
Where do we get them from?
Yeah, I mean, who pranks West Virginians as people that sleep with their cousins?
Douchebags.
And it's okay. It's the media. It's movies. It's the same thing.
Yeah. You're right. Don't marry a ginger. It's no good.
Oh, exactly. I mean, they're the white people. They're the black people of white people. I never understood how cruel gingers was treated. But I'm like, Jesus,
it's bad. It's very bad. It's horrible.
They get blamed for everything too. You're saying my car got a flat tire. You know what I'm saying? Must be a ginger. That kind of thing. No, seriously, I didn't know. Like I said, that was outside my purview. But when you start hearing like the stereotypes, it's like, wow, this thing
that's a very good point, though. So, well, first of all, I'm glad that we can just sit here and talk about it, because I remember. Here's how I remember it going down, because it was I was doing the morning show with I think Scott Shannon, Ross Britton. These were all huge Z100 more, and all white guys. Except we had Professor Jonathan B. Bell, who did sports, black guy, of course. But I remember, I wish I remembered exactly, but it was kind of, Jimmy the Greek, he can't believe what they wouldn't actually say, but you could tell that everyone was like, he's right, but we're not going to say he's right.
It's one of the things that we see even modern, that they talk about what he said without actually saying what he said.
Right.
We saw this with the Bill Cosby thing. They never used what his confession was. They just talked about his confession.
Right.
It's like, he confessed.
Yeah.
It's like, what did he say, though? Don't worry about it. He confessed. It's like, but what did he say?
Yeah.
Like I said, this is no caper for Bill Cosby, because he got his own issues. But what I'm just saying is...
So here comes the problem. Does the media do that because they don't want to be complicit in some suspected racism, or do they do that because they just want to keep it quiet, keep everything going the way it is?
They don't want to unearth, and this is why I point out the Megyn Kelly thing. You had the narrative that she had, and this is no shot to Megyn, of what Miss Bills went through. But then you had what Miss Bills went through. You know what I'm saying? She's like, there was ropes and N-words. No, they were shooting at me and trying to light me on fire and throwing acid on me. And it's the same thing here. It's like the idea of slavery versus what was really going on in slavery.
And the converse is true in recent history with Juicy Smollett.
Mm-hmm.
There it was, MAGA country, put a noose around you. And, of course, that was all just trauma reporting for effect.
Right. Or the one we always talk about is good people on both sides. That kind of thing. It's like, we're going to take this and shape it. But not to belabor a point, but I'm just showing you, nobody really wants to have that conversation of what acts went into slavery. And that was more modern slavery, because when they had a steady flow, you know what I'm saying, of slaves coming into the country, it wasn't beneficial. But the late stages of slavery was a lot of slave farms. They were farming human beings. Now, with that, if I've never seen a business person want to make a inferior product, you know what I'm saying, just to be cold and callous about it for a minute. You take your best and breed to your best to make better. So I think this is why we have the you know, the huge quantity of these genes being manifest. Now, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, it's heavy in their gene pool to have these things that were a desired. It was a feature. You know, we need him to lift and carry and pick and haul and so we need to look for this phenotype, and we need to let that phenotype spread, seed to all the women.
Sure,
this is American history. Like, people can get frustrated or whatever, but let's not talk about it.
No, and it's so crazy because we've gone so far to the other side that now we are, because you said business people, that triggered me. Businesses are making very bad business decisions based upon, because I have people who sit in boardrooms, I have people who sit in the largest medical organizations, and it'll be like, okay, we need a company who we're going to outsource this particular thing to. Here's our choices. That one, yeah, they really are pretty white heavy, so they just can't, we can't choose them. So the opposite is now happening, where the decisions are being made that are counterintuitive to the success of the business based on race.
It would seem that way, but what is their real goal here? Right. It's like that. What is their real goal? I mean, it seems
no. Hold on a second. No.
Go ahead.
What's happening today in boardrooms? The real goal is to comply with ESG. That's the goal.
Right.
It's not to be successful. No, you absolute. But you either do it this way, or you're guaranteed to not make money. So you can do a little worse, or maybe 40% worse, but that's better than 90% worse. That's the trauma that's happening now in the boardrooms.
Because the steady drumbeat is to depopulation. That's the steady.
Of course, they've always wanted to kill us, Mo. We know that. Not just you, everybody.
Right. And what I always say, they start with it. They start with us. That's the thing. It's like I'm ringing the bell, like, hey,
yes,
I know how this go, and this is why people are, oh, that's why we went back what you were saying before. Like, you see it one way, it's like I can't see it any other way. I mean, because it's my paradigm. You know, now do I let that make me be ineffective? Do I let that make me be in a state of being traumatized? And no, it's just this is reality. You know, just like how they deleted from what he actually said because they don't want to talk about what went on in this country. Just like they try to shut Ye up about our Holocaust. He's like, this is our Holocaust. Like, shut up, Ye. You know what I'm saying? You can't say that. Why can't I say that? Everybody else can talk about their suffering because you can't. Shut up.
Well, you can say it. Yeah, you can say it. Just the mainstream says no. We're not gonna broadcast that.
I mean, they debanked the man. I'm going before he went on. You're saying InfoWars. I'm talking about prior to that when he was like, you know, Planned Parenthood is our Holocaust. You can't say that.
No, you can't.
How can you not tell what my suffering? Why can't I tell my story? You know, because they don't want. Well, that to happen.
I mean, okay. So the bottom line is, yes, you can say it, but you can say it only in certain places, like on a podcast.
Right. that's why this is so powerful.
Yes, but that's why podcasting is more exciting, more interesting than mainstream, because truth comes out.
Oh, we'd have been stopped. The phone, boule phones would have been ringing.
You bet.
From both sides, like, what the hell is going on over there? You know what I'm saying? Like, shut it down. They'd have pulled the power. They'd have took us off the grid. Because they don't want us to talk about this, but you only can get to, and you know what the real fear is? They think the counter to white supremacy is black supremacy.
Oh, it's
really when the counter is justice. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to be polar, go to the other pole.
No.
With it, it's just like call it fair. And that's why sports is so important, because that's the one place on the field you can call it fair, allegedly.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you take into consideration, refs, people throwing games, etc. But yeah, in general, on the field is where the truth comes out.
Because we can see it. Everybody can see it. Like, oh, that's a bad call.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, hey, you know what I'm saying? Like, he was out or he was in. Like, it's very clear. You know what I'm saying? Here's the line. Was he out or was he in? It's a definitive answer to it. where everything else is objective.
Right.
No, subjective. You know what I'm saying? Sports is objective. So let's go ahead and listen to Jimmy the Greek being canceled in the 80s for his letting out of the truth.
And the fallout was very swift.
I don't think the network was left with any choice in the matter. I don't think the network fired him. I think he fired himself.
I was telling them how superior the black athlete is over the white one, and for the reasons that the black tries harder. He has made a big mistake, but then all of us do. And we have to, at some point in time, in people's sure contrite heart, to forgive, to redeem, and to move on.
Not CBS.
You know, on Friday afternoon here in Washington, our former colleague, Jimmy the Greek, made some regrettable and offensive remarks for which he has apologized. Yesterday, CBS issued a statement disassociating itself from those remarks. It goes without saying that his comments do not reflect in any way the thinking or attitudes of the rest of us here at CBS Sports. While we deplore the incident this weekend, we are saddened that our 12-year association with Jimmy had to end this way.
It's such a great psyop, you know. It's like everyone sees it. Everyone sees the balance. Everyone sees who performs better. But that's not, of course, our opinion here at CBS.
Because you can't say the quiet part out loud.
Never.
That's what he stepped. That's what he stepped on. He stepped on the third rail, and that's what you just can't say that. And there's one more part to husbandry before we move on that people don't want to factor in. But like I look at things through, through a logical lens, and the fact that you had this planned, planned reproduction going on for a better product. And then you had white genetics coming over into that as well through rape or interracial relations or however you want to look at it. There's a thing called hybrid vigor, which I'm going to do a whole show on this.
What's it called?
Hybrid vigor. So what happens is when you take a white person and a black person and they have a baby, the offspring can have super genetics. Because it's a new thing. And so when you cross two things, in the will to survive, it has a higher chance of having enhanced genetics. Which I think a lot of the Calarity plan is about. It's like, let's make, mix them up. This is why you're seeing this commercial. Mix them up. We're going to the super race. Super race. And that's what when you had this white genetics come over into this already planned genetics for black people, that added to it even more. Now, this is all science. This is why Meghan Markle, quote unquote, is so beautiful or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's hybrid vigor. It's real, like I said, and we got to be clear. It looks overrepresented because you say 85%, of the NFL is black or blah, 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 blah. But, I mean, what is it, like 65 players on a team, 32 teams? You know what I'm saying? Do that math. That's not a lot of people. And they're looking for these kids at every corner, every Pop Warner field, they're scouring the earth for the next LeBron James.
Sure.
For the next, so it's like, okay, when you find one, they're an anomaly within their race. You see what I'm saying? Within their race itself, because it's not like it's 1,000 LeBron James out here. They tell you how small the number is, or 1,000 Michael Jordans. There's only one, but it's the likelihood of that being manifested through reproduction is higher because of what the shenanigans that went on during slavery,
or still go on for all we know.
Of course, because guess what? You took me here, so applaud yourself. What do you think Planned Parenthood is? A woman's not going to keep a baby of a buster or a lame. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're going to keep the tall, attractive guy's baby. It's still going on. Yes, it's still going on.
Yeah, it is. That's fucked up. That's fucked up.
No, I'm saying, and it goes across, that's just, that go to show it goes across all colors there, because you know what I'm saying? Oh, he's a loser, or that was an accident. You know what I'm saying?
But is that not the natural order of the human spirit is to seek the appropriate mate, seek it based upon, women traditionally make themselves look more attractive. Men, and this changes throughout time. It's you want the John Henry, like the massive kind of guy who's going to protect you, and then in a different era, we want kind of the geeky guy, and then a new era we want the guy with the dad bod. All these different things that are that morph and change maybe through popular culture, probably. Right. Yeah, but even let's look at women. What are black men highly attractive to? Thick girls. Am I correct?
Allegedly.
Supposedly.
Because that's the narrative. That's why they take a Kim K and put her on a pedestal and say, "Oh, this is beauty."
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? That this is the media playing with that narrative. You know what I'm saying? Even though Kim K's appearance is not her genetic. This is the sick part. Would you want me to?
No.
It's like those aren't her genetics. That's manufactured.
So in a sick way, the media is doing husbandry.
Yes.
So they are in fact a bunch of racist dicks.
Scientific white supremacists is what they are, because it's all about creating a better race, a smarter race, a more fit race, and when you introduce just willy-nilly sex, you gotta have, you gotta have a counter to that. You can't have all these people having all these babies they're making.
I'm thinking about Obama. It's like, well, he's not exactly the right race, but he ticks all the boxes. So we'll just call him black. There you go.
Correct.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Right. And like I said, I got a whole nother show. We did some of that, but I had to explain that why it's so taboo to talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's some heavy stuff in there. And you know what I'm saying? And the fact that we do be able to have these conversations with such a light, bounce to it, is a great thing, because you can't get the truth. Like I said, all humor, all jokes have some truth in it.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? This is what we're dealing with right here. So moving forward, Farrakhan, he was at Michigan State, I think back in the late 90s. And they gave the student, like a black student body or African studies group that wanted to bring him there. And they said, no, you can't bring him here. You had to pay him out of your own pocket, even though the university would pay for other questionable guests. So he addresses that and then comes up with a possible solution to the black athletes at Michigan State.
Michigan State is a great university, one of the finest in this nation. But each year, the black football players, the black basketball players, the black athletes contribute so much to the coffers of this university. In one football game, black talent gives to this university millions. Yet a black person that means something to black students, whether I mean anything to white folk at all, is irrelevant. But if I mean something to my own people, the least you could do out of respect for what black people give to this institution is to back these students in what they want. This is a shame. Maybe we ought to tell all black students, let's get the hell out of white universities and build something of our own.
No, we can't have that.
That's a multi-billion-dollar
move,
potential loss.
Move. That's a baller move to do that.
Yeah, because they had it all laid out with collegiate sports. You don't play the players.
Right.
You can work them from sun up to sundown. We don't pay them. Most of them are not going to go on to the professional leagues, but then they can monetize, You know what I'm saying? Their actual playing of games. One being the SEC is one of the biggest benefactors of this system.
The SEC?
SEC, the Southeastern Conference.
Oh, I'm sorry. But to me, SEC is Securities Exchange Commission. I'm sorry.
It could be. Much money is that making?
Yeah, right.
But yeah, Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, Tennessee, all these schools in the South are right ground zero for all this black genetics.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just put it like this.
Which makes sense because that's where the genetics were created.
Exactly. And they're monetizing it and they're not paying anything for it. But go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, if you're really into football, do you look at where someone comes from in that way? Like, oh, we're looking at some new recruits, and I mean, do the coaches only, the scouts, do they only look at the performance, or they say, well, we got a good spot over here, we've had some good genetic luck over here? Does that play into it?
Well, they look at this talent, but there's these hubs of talent, these schools that are not, like, for instance, one is in Charlotte, North Carolina, called Independence. Mm. All the best players across Charlotte want to go to Independence. So you get like it's 1 million plus people in Charlotte, you know what I'm saying, a large black population. Mm-hmm. So you only have to go to these hubs. But now with the invent of YouTube and everybody having a camera, you got film just on everybody. But they know, like I said, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, go over to Texas, you know what I'm saying? All these are hotbeds, what they call for blue chips. And they even rate them 5-star, 4-star, 3-star athletes.
Cool.
And they start at 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. This is why Nike have these camps and they're recording their metrics. Oh, he runs a 4.2. Oh, he can jump this high. Oh, we got to keep our eye on this kid over here. Mm. You know what I'm saying? This is why at LeBron James, at 8th, 9th grade, Nike knew who LeBron was because they had the Nike camp.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? They know, oh, he's on the up and come. Oh, we got to put him on. Oh, yeah. And they institute rules like the one and done to say, oh, we lost LeBron James. He skipped over college. No more. We got to go to school for 1 year.
Right.
Why? Because we said so. But why? Does a top programmer have to go to college for 1 year before they go to work at Facebook, IBM,
No,
Google?
Most of them didn't even go to college.
But college football, you got to go to school 2 years. Well, college basketball, you got to go once.
Right. Well, they invest the initial money. B, they're probably getting money from Nike. C, they want to make sure they get the money back.
Well, they want to tie these athletes to these universities. Because whatever they invested in them, they're going to get. Look at Zion Williamson.
100 times.
You know what I'm saying? He would have went straight to the NBA. But they said, no, you got to go to Duke. And this is the conflict I have with it. Because on one hand, you're seeing these young men get an opportunity to go to these, you know what I'm saying, prestigious universities, get educations, just go, if their athletics don't pan out for them, you know what I'm saying, they could be something, meaningful in life. But on the other hand, that legacy is still there. Mm-hmm. The way they met, that's what gave Kaepernick that opening. Say, oh yeah, they're modern day plantation owners. The imagery is there.
Yeah.
But here's the problem: you have somebody like Deion Sanders. I'll tell y'all what we're gonna end with prom. Here's the problem: Deion Sanders came in and he said, "I'm going to go to HBCU, historically black college or university." And I'm going to bring that top level talent over to the HBCU with me. Problem. So let's go ahead. Let's go. See, you start having.
I don't know why, but I remember for whatever reason in New York there was the Deion. Why was that? That just popped in my head. There was something he would do, and everyone would go Deion. Do you remember this? Okay. Maybe if we get some clips, I'll remember.
Okay. So now this is when Deion first started and got hired by HBCU, Jackson State University. Clip 31.
We're going to go to the man who has done it all on the field and is now making an historic move to the sidelines to take on a meaningful new challenge. NFL Hall of Famer Deion Sanders has been named the head coach of Jackson State University Tigers. And we're going to talk to him live in just a moment, all about how he plans to make an impact at this HBCU. But first, let's find out more about that big news from my friend Deion Sanders. This morning, a huge score for Jackson State University in Mississippi. Deion Sanders, the Football Hall of Famer, World Series competitor, and two-time Super Bowl champion, taking over as head coach at the historically black university.
It is a pivotal turning point for JSU football and Jackson State University.
The announcement expected to bring renewed energy to the JSU athletic program, making the school a bigger draw for potential recruits. Sanders' announcement coming on the heels of five-star recruit Makur Maker, who stunned the sports world when he committed to Howard University, another HBCU, saying that he hopes to make the HBCU movement real so that others will follow.
No, I remember. It's not that big a deal. It was because, of course, he was playing for the Yankees, and the Mets fans would go, Deion, like batter, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay,
That's what that was about. Yeah.
But you see now how he could become a disruptive figure in this billion-dollar industry.
Yeah, very.
And I have to say this, Deion Sanders is by far one of the top athletes in American history. And we're not talking about we're talking about money, celebrity. I'm talking about up there with Michael Jordan.
Oh, yeah.
Because
massive.
he had the personality. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's one of those people that he make you smile by him smiling kind of person. You know, and he's so set in his confidence, you know, that it's just amazing. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I grew up watching Deion always from Florida State. And he gave me high hopes when he started going to HBCU. I'm like, okay, that kind of figure going to HBCU and kids, you know what I'm saying, gravitating towards him, that could be very disruptive. You want to say something before we go to 32?
No, I'm good. I'm all ears.
We're joined now by my friend, the one and only Deion Sanders. Deion, thank you for joining us. Congratulations to you. We heard one of your players say it just doesn't feel real. Does it feel real to you? And what went through your mind when the opportunity to be the head coach at Jackson State University came along?
I was elated. You talking about a team academically that leads the FCS and APR. You talking about a school that's unheralded, 33,000 fans, which is astounding. You talking about 4 former Hall of Famers that matriculated from this institution. I am excited. I'm elated. I have on my whistle right now. I cannot wait to get on the grass and do some coaching.
Yeah, don't blow your whistle during this interview. We don't need that this morning. But you know, there are a lot of schools. They're Big Ten schools, for instance. Big Ten schools say they have so many more resources, but you decided to go to Jackson State when I'm sure you had other opportunities. So this is an historic move. Why is this so important to you to coach at an HBCU?
First and foremost, God led me to Jackson State. That's what I can truly, honestly say. And it's just sitting on that stage and looking my people in the eye and saying and proclaiming what I plan on doing with this program. We have a coaching staff that has 84 years of NFL experience combined coaching and playing. And these kids just need the level field just leveled. They need the playing field leveled. I cannot wait for this opportunity. If you give us the resources, you give us the same resources that these other schools have, we're going to prove that there is a highway that takes you from Jackson State all the way into the NFL and professionalism. We're not just raising professional football players, we're raising professionals.
Ooh, the highway. That's right. A roll all the way through.
That's where he messed up. Because when you set the standard that God sends me for my people.
Oh, yeah, he's a Christian. This is, whoops.
Well, you start tapping into that Messiah figure. Like, I'm here, you know what I'm saying, to resurrect HBCU football. People start believing in you. And when that dream comes to an end, as you're going to see later, he gets a lot of backlash from when he decides to take his talents elsewhere. Just spoiler alert. But I'm just telling you, like, when you start that God sent me for our people, blah, 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 that sets, you know, okay, we got, you know what I'm saying, we got us one, you know what I'm saying, like, yeah, Deion, you know what I'm saying, go to HBCUs. And I think that was the beginning of his downfall for if he ever decided. He didn't give himself any wiggle room, which I knew. And let's give me a little history of Deion Sanders. It's like a quick 30-second history. Deion Sanders has always done what's best for him. He came up with the term business decision. That means like if a guy's coming at him, he's a defensive player. I'm not going to tackle him. I'm going to try to push him out of bounds. I'm not going to tackle him because I got to live to play another game or another day. So this is his mentality, nothing against him.
Now, would he say that? Would he say, I've made a business decision? Is that what he would say?
He created the term business decision. Fast forward, he went from Atlanta to San Francisco, won a championship with San Francisco, Super Bowl, left from there the very next year, went to Dallas, their arch enemy. You know what I'm saying? So it's like he's a higher sword, which I have no problem with that. You see what I'm saying? If you're upfront honest with people. But I understood when you start throwing around a God sent me and I'm here, you know what I'm saying, to build the highway, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, that becomes a problem. So let's go ahead and get to the final clip before we thank some more people. But then I'm going to explain to you, you know what I'm saying, how it went wrong.
And I am a HBCU product myself, so I think this, as you said, it gives some legitimacy to the program and does put you on the same playing field, which is very important for all these young men out there. And a top prospect, McCord Maker, he was recruited by some big college basketball program, but he announced that he's going to attend Howard University because it is an HBCU. So do you think this is the beginning of a trend by some of these young black athletes?
I'm praying so. I'm not just the young black athletes, their parents as well. Only a kid just wants to know, when I leave the inner city, can I go to a better situation? That's why we're trying to show them how wonderful the dorms are, the training tables. We have new facilities going in Jackson State University as we speak, which should be concluded by June. I cannot wait. Long as these kids know we're going to get a better situation than whence we left, they're apt to do it. And I'm praying that they do, because we sent out a bunch of offers yesterday to some of the best. We're not recruiting low caliber kids. We're recruiting the same kids that some of the major universities are recruiting, and we plan on landing them.
All right, so you see the standard he set for himself.
Yeah.
That was a few years ago. This is peak George Floyd, around that era. And the Colin Kaepernick, this is all in that era. You know what I'm saying? So just to give you some context of how people were thinking at the time. But let's go ahead and thank some more people, and then we'll get to the fallout after we thank some people.
I like brand new money. I don't want any money around me that's not. I'd almost rather have a new one than an old 20. Now, that's kind of dumb, isn't it? But there's something about new money that excites you. You like $100 bills?
Oh, yeah. I like new money, too.
Most beautiful thing on earth is a $100 bill. I hadn't seen a woman as good looking as a $100 bill. There's something about a $100 bill that excites you.
That's right. Don't get too used to them, because that paper money is going away fast and furious. However, we love getting some value from you, and you can do that through PayPal. You can do it through Podcasting 2.0 apps, which we discussed earlier. A couple more producers to thank. We really appreciate the $40 we got from Alejandro Alcocer, Jennifer Cato, and Matthew Weaver. Rafael Negron says, much respect. Also, it's in $39.99. Nice one. Much respect for being a great example of a good family head. I'm a child from a broken family who got married, and I'm trying to sew up a legacy together with my wife and 2 boys. Thanks for the inspiration. Keep Moe Factz them in the mouth. RAF. You got it, man. Thank you. We got a combined Mark J. Asher, 24, 12, 12, and 2. And he says, actually, he loved episode 29, the Rono. What a classic. When will the word they be banned? Not quite sure what he means by that.
The word they, I think, quotes being quotes.
The word they
banned.
be banned.
Yeah.
I gotcha. And so actually, he sent two for the episode 29. We appreciate that. David J. Langford, $34.56. Could you do an episode on suburb kids wearing blackface Halloween costumes?
I looked at this Twitter, and it's just some people in blackface with prison suits on out in Utah. Yeah, I mean, you probably put the link in the show notes.
I'll put the link in the show notes. So I haven't looked at it, so I have no opinion. By the way, maybe a future show, I'd love to talk to you about what's happening with so-called Black Twitter on Mastodon. This is really...
Oh, yeah, the caller response, yeah.
Very interesting. Anyway, we'll set that aside. I'm glad you already heard about it, so we'll pick up on that later. Now we got some 33s, value for value from Christopher D. Biasi. Mark Talbot, $30, thank you. Aaron Tanner, $25, thank you, he says. Thank you as well. Kyan, $25. Michael M., $25. I love Kanye, but him with Alex Jones and Nick Fuentes isn't quite as striking an image as George Lincoln Rockwell sitting up front at a Nation of Islam meeting. Modern day version of everything, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Todd Krezeminski, Merry Christmas. Roa Ducks, $22.22. Thank you. $20.22 from Victor Carmona. Fan from the FEMA region number 2, Puerto Rico. All right. FEMA region number 6 says hi. And what are you, Mo? Are you FEMA region number 5? I can't remember.
I don't know.
You need to know, man, because people ask you. It's important.
Okay.
We got to look that up.
Let me look it up now. Why you think some more?
We got a number of 20s. We're going to read them right now. Aaron Sneed, Andrew Butterfield, Arsonomics, Benjamin Barlow, David Jones, and Dustin Zimmer. Thank you all very much. Eric Runkle, $20. Hey, Mo and Adam, I'm canceling my subscription because PayPal. Yeah, that's about it. Anyway, I'd love to keep supporting. Do you have any plans to set up a Stripe or other less censor happy option? Yes, we do. Value for value. Go to newpodcastapps.com, or if you want a shortcut, go ahead and pick up Fountain. It's in all app stores, Android and iOS, and that's a great way. It is not just less censor happy. It is really censorship resistant because it's Bitcoin. Jacques Delisle, 20. Jeremy Kavanaugh, 20. Seth Peterson, 20. Stephen McConnell, 20. SV, 20. Terrence Lynch, Trenton Scoville, Vanessa Steinbach, and Walter Foss, all $20. Thank you. Johnny Hipwell, 2 $9.99 donations. Thanks for the content, Mo and Adam. Johnny from Canada. And he says, Canadian donation for the catalog. Oh, thank you. Cortland Richardson, $10. Joshua Goodson, love you, Mo and Adam, $10. Thank you. Keith Robinson with a 10. Young Grump Productions, $10, says, I am no longer a deadbeat.
Congratulations. You're no longer a deadbeat.
And there's the receipt.
And that's the Grump I referred to earlier.
Gotcha.
So,
well, you know what?
Shouts out to Grump.
We're going to give him a little bit of a karma then. Shouts out to him.
You've got
Mo karma.
A cult fan. Yes, our buddy Nathan Lee. Shout out to Hey Joey J. $8.88 for episode 88. Nathan Lee and his Deep State has got what you need. Listen at Bandcamp and GBG. You got it. We'll give them to him. Vincent Farrell, $5.55. Great stuff, he says. Thank you. Moises Hernandez, $4.20. We get it. And a $1. It's actually for your birthday. And I forgot to say happy birthday, Mo.
Thank you, sir.
What's this? I didn't have you in my calendar. Tina's like, dude, it's Mo's birthday. I'm like, no.
I am the worst birthday person in the world, so I cannot hold you to any level of accountability because I'll forget a birthday in a minute. I was telling you.
All right. Well,
sorry to my head, not my heart.
I don't feel so bad then.
From Region 3.
FEMA Region 3. Hello from 6. Michael Cole, $5. We got Yarborough with $5. Terry Keller, the Human Subscription Machine, $4.11. He's always doing that manually. And Aaron Geyer with $1. We thank all of these producers and, of course, our executive and associate executive producers, our boosters as well, for the value that you've provided us. It keeps us going. We really appreciate it. Looking forward to a great 2023. It is moefactz.com, moefatz.com, or mofundme.com if you want to go directly to the donation page. We really appreciate it. Looking forward to episode 89. Thank you very much for supporting Moe Factz with Adam Curry.
All right, so I gave you the brief history of Deion Sanders' sports career, but we got to go back a little bit further just to understand who he is and to make him as a person. This is from a 2002 documentary, Prime Time, the Deion Sanders story. This is going to go over his childhood real quickly so we can just get understanding who he is.
Deion Sanders grew up living with his mother and sister in a public housing project in Fort Myers, Florida. A neighborhood so riddled with crime, it came with its own jail.
The police decided to put a police substation right inside the project.
so they could take him to jail right there in the project. And they put barbed wire all around. It's sort of like a prison.
Deion saw the pain and misery of the projects from close range. His father, Daddy Buck, who left the family when Deion was a child, was frequently unemployed and addicted to drugs.
My biological father, Daddy Buck, he used drugs. I've seen him with needles, people in this room shooting up, and those are the reasons why I've never chosen to drink or smoke in the entirety of my life.
Many nights, we lay up in the bed and we talk, and I explain to him, that your dad is gone, but I'm here for you. A lot of times we cry, but we made it.
The Huxtable's unreal. In African American families, really, I don't know anyone whose father is a doctor, the mother's a lawyer. We didn't grow up like that.
So I rang the bell because it just goes to show you that he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke. The worst thing you could say, like, he likes to party. Have fun. He strong black man, raised his sons to be upstanding men. I think that's why he was kind of marginalized. For somebody with his, you got to understand, Deion Sanders was the only non-quarterback to have his own video game. You know what I'm saying? That's how, everything was, Nike's rise was really huge with Dallas Cowboys' rise and Deion Sanders' rise. Him running down the sideline with that bandana on with the Nike symbol, the Nike headbands around his neck, all Nike symbols all over him. But some reason they didn't elevate him like they do a LeBron or even a Michael Jordan. And what could it be? Because his clean cut image, right? I just found that weird. You know what I'm saying? That he wasn't given his flowers. I say it like that, like you think he should have.
Okay. All right. So and there's reasons for that, I guess.
Right. Because one, you don't fit that. He didn't
fit the profile.
Well, it's a funny thing because he came in right when hip hop was getting big, and he was one of the first hip hop athletes. You know what I'm saying? Embracing that,
didn't he even do
whole imagery?
Didn't he do a hip hop song?
Yeah, must be the money. Must be the yeah. That's everybody know the Deion. That's prime.
Yeah,
baseball, basketball. Baseball, football, pro level baseball, football, music video. He had it all, but for some reason they wouldn't elevate him, and I think the reason why because he didn't fit that negative hip hop imagery. You know what I'm saying? That they were trying to run with. You know what I'm saying? Like, here, he's a preacher man or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's a goody goody. Mm-hmm. So I just want to point that out. Anything else you'd like to say before we get into
No, keep it rolling.
So now we get to the development of Primetime, the actual personality, and that's 36.
As a poor kid from the projects, Deion Sanders had used school sports to steer clear of drugs and crime. Now at the age of 18, as he graduated high school, he was facing new temptations. The Kansas City Royals were offering him the quick road to riches, just as Florida State had offered Deion a free ride to college.
He thought if they can offer him $75,000, he can make even much more if he go to college.
I believe in me like no other. If you don't believe in yourself, ain't nobody else will.
And he said, Mom, I think I'm going on to school.
In the summer of 1985, Deion chose to attend Florida State. By the end of his first year, he was making a name for himself in 3 sports: football, baseball, and sometimes track.
Our track coach asked him, will you run in one of our meets? Oh, yeah, I'll run in one of your meets. So he goes over and runs in a meet and whips world-class sprinters.
Oh, yeah.
That's the kind of genetics I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You see what I'm like? And there's only one Deion Sanders in this world. That's the level I'm talking about, that you can just, oh, yeah, I'll go run. Right. And whoop people that's been training for, that's their discipline, is to run track, and track takes form. You know what I'm saying? Nah, I'll just go out here and run, and I'll outrun everybody.
I'll just literally just run.
Right.
I don't have any technique. I'm just going to run.
Right. So I'm just sure. I mean, that's one in a lifetime. You know what I'm saying? I would say one in a generation type of talent, and God gift and ability. But he was smart enough to monetize it. And you can see how he was smart enough to, could have a control of his image in 37. And if you would like to add something.
No, you rang the bell about him going to school because he could make more money. They said in that.
Yeah. Because he understood, like, if they're going to pay me $75,000 to play baseball minor league, I got to be worth more. And that lends me to a Master P quote. You're saying that I learned to live by, another person that, he didn't conform to the way the industry wanted to go with music. But he said, if they want to pay you $2 million, you must be worth $4 million.
Right.
So it's this mentality of knowing your worth, believing in yourself. And this is the kind of people we grew up looking to. You know what I'm saying? Like Primetime, I don't think he get the respect he's supposed to get. I'm telling you, up there with Jordan, Ali, that kind of person. Not take away money and all, personality and position. He's up there with those guys.
Yeah, right on.
All right, so 37.
Deion Sanders fields at the 11th, 15 it is.
By his sophomore year, Deion had sealed his reputation as someone to watch. The ambitious 19-year-old wanted much more. So Deion created a character he felt would distinguish him from the rest of the pack, Primetime.
Somebody convinced him, hey, Deion, you can make a lot of money if you sell yourself, and that's exactly what he did.
Stealing a page from the School of Corporate Marketing, Deion created a character and gave it a nickname. He began wearing gold chains and giant rings. Deion drove around campus in his new Chrysler convertible with personalized Primetime license plates, talking on his cell phone, all courtesy of his hardworking mother, Connie. The top cornerback in college football hoped Primetime would help draw crowds and ticket sales, convincing big league scouts to write him big league checks.
He said, Mom, cornerbacks isn't making any money. He said, I got to do something to make plenty of money. Because he used to always say a closed mouth is never fed. And he just created a monster.
But the Primetime monster was more than just clothing. Primetime was also an attitude. An attitude Deion created based on his 4 favorite sports idols.
Muhammad Ali, because I love his brashness, but he backed it up. Hank Aaron, for the way he endured those trials and tribulations and racism. O.J. Simpson, he was the juice. He took care of his lineman, who took care of him. And Dr. J, Julius Erving, the constant professional, the business life, but he had the flair for the dramatics.
Was his mom a momager?
No.
Okay.
And that's cap. That's bullcrap that his mama was paying for his cell phone and Chrysler LeBaron that he was drop top Chrysler LeBaron that he was riding around it. That was Florida State. And this is the thing. Like, we see. I grew up ground zero of collegiate sports in Durham, North Carolina. Duke, you had Chapel Hill right up. We're saying 8 miles down the road. We saw these guys, Rasheed Wallace, Jerry Stackhouse, all they were saying. Grant Hill had money. You know what I'm saying? His dad was wealthy or rich, whatever you want to put it. But these guys talking about they had come from nothing, and then all of a sudden they're moving their whole family down from wherever they lived in apartments, and that's why I said this is it's a double standard. And you're gonna hear a little bit later that his mom was paying for all. Now he would say he did everything he did because his mom didn't have no money. Now all of a sudden she has all this money to pay for what he has. You see what I'm saying? Like,
well, that's like I mean, again, I was 17, 18, whatever. I went to college, and I had no idea. I for all intents and purposes, I was European. I didn't know about anything, and I connected pretty well with the football team and a couple of guys on the team, and was invited to some parties, and it was like, oh, this guy's off campus. He's got a cool pad. He's got a car. So, oh, coach takes care of that. What do you mean the coach takes care of that? Shh, we don't talk about that. Ah, okay. So now I see.
And it's really the boosters who take care of it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, sure.
That it's and just as a quick aside, we saw boosters in a movie. but they put a sugarcoat on it called The Blind Side. You ever seen The Blind Side?
Of course I've seen The Blind Side. Absolutely.
Okay. The movie is a lot different
from reality.
From reality. That they picked this guy up off the street and, just brought him into their home and they had to teach him how to play football. That dude was already a top recruit.
Right.
But they brought him in their home, and with the understanding that you can go to school where you want to, but we're but our family and you're part of our family goes to, I think it was Mississippi State or Ole Miss, one of those schools, SEC schools. You see what I'm saying? And this is common. Got a guy I went to school with. They realized he could play basketball real well around 6th, 7th, 8th grade playing Little League. A family moved him in. LeBron James went through the same thing. And it's a phenomenon. If you ever watched any professional draft, you're going to see the family and then you'll see oftentimes the white family that you're saying like, oh, this is an asset.
The Sandra Bullock.
Right.
Huh.
I'm telling you, just watch any sports draft, you know what I'm saying, and you will see it's the real family, the biological family, and then there's the benefactors, which I have no issue with. You know what I'm saying? My issue is we need to start taking these kids in. You know what I'm saying? And routing them to HBCUs. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a hater. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it's working, but I'm telling you this, they like to paint the blind side like, oh, we didn't know he could play football. You know what I'm saying? Like, no. You knew exactly what you were getting when you let him in your home. You know what I'm saying? And it was with the understanding that we could route you as a booster to our university, our alma mater.
So when you saw the movie, The Blind Side, you saw it, did you see it in the theater?
No, I saw it at home.
Oh, okay. So what did you think of it?
I knew exactly what was going on from the beginning. I mean, like, I hate to sound like that. I really do, but it's,
So what was the point of this movie? Was it just a feel-good movie?
No, to popularize that method. To say it's okay to, you're saying, bring top 5 and 4 and 5 star recruits into your home, to route them to your university. And like I said, the thing about his mom getting paying for all that stuff, we saw with Zion Williamson's mom when Nike had gave her a job. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. Right. Same thing with LeBron James. His mama bought him a Hummer. You know what I'm saying? Like, where did she get the money? So what I'm saying is it's very clear. And there was an old movie called The Program. The boosters come through, give you that $100 handshake. Oh, go down to the dealership. A booster down there runs the dealership, pick you out a car. You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. Or you get a job you don't have to show up to, and we'll cut you a paycheck. That kind of thing. So I'm just saying, like, it's a whole system to it. And now that to show you that Deion was effective, I'm gonna skip over 38 and go straight to 39 for the sake of time. But all 38 was saying was Deion saying that he said our people come to me. You know what I'm saying? He felt like he should have been a preacher, but he's like, no, I just go directly to the people. And that's the thing, like I said, that's his personality. People are drawn to him. They love Prime. You know what I'm saying? We all love Prime. I don't know, we haven't met a person yet that didn't like Deion. Even myself, I hated Deion when he played for the 49ers. Next year he comes to Dallas, biggest Deion fan in the world. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just what kind of guy he is.
Yeah, I mean, all I can remember is a super charming, nice guy.
Right, with this huge 1,000,000-watt smile. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, exactly. Very charming. Very charming.
Right. So to show that he was effective at what he's doing, I got an 18-second clip. Now, Nick Saban, just because you don't watch sports, Nick Saban is like the king of college football right now at Alabama. The same Alabama that we spoke about before. You know what I'm saying? That same university. He was getting Alabama, they had guys that wouldn't even start and going to the NFL. This is how stacked he was with talent. Deion came in and started becoming effective and upset his apple cart, and you could hear it in 38.
We have a rule right now that says you cannot use name, image, and likeness to entice a player to come to your school. Hell, read about it in the paper. I mean, Jackson State paid a guy $1 million last year that was a really good Division I player to come to school. It was in the paper, and they bragged about it. Nobody did anything about it.
And when? Wow. Okay. Isn't that supposed to be unmentioned?
You would think. I mean, because I'm telling you, Coach K. I mean, look, I love Duke basketball. I love ACC basketball, but Coach K was paying players, not him, but the boosters. Dean Smith was paying players, not him, but the boosters. All these teams pay their players one way or another. But the fact that when Deion started doing it, and then they changed the rule recently, where these players can start using their NIL or name, image, and likeness to monetize themselves, YouTube channels, whatever else. Now it's a new game.
Now, when you say the boosters, how does that mechanism work? I mean, I understand what they are, but tell me how it connects to the university.
Well,
the
boosters, they write checks to the universities, so the universities can have.
Got it.
It's two ways it works. It's above board and below board. Well, three ways. One, you can house potential recruits like the blind side and route them to your university. That's one way.
Let them borrow your convertible.
Right. Two, you can write a huge check, and help pay for these facilities where if a guy, they got the top of the line nutrition, top of the line training facilities, weightless, like when they get injured, they have these pools they run in, zero gravity pools with treadmills in them. Their locker room look like Alabama.
Right, to make the facility attractive for them to come to.
Right. And not only that, and here's the thing. If you say to me, my son, he turns out to be a 5-star athlete, and you say, do you want him to go to Alabama or HBCU? There's a real conversation and thought process. I'm getting to the third one, but I got to lay it out. The second one, rehab. These guys tear ACL, MCLs all the time. Alabama's team doctor was the team doctor for pro athletes as well. Everybody flew down to him to get their ACL, MCLs repaired.
Right.
Yeah. This is how serious. I mean, like you will do a thoroughbred horse. You know what I'm saying? We got to let him run. We can't let him.
Wait,
you get hurt,
they're treating them like they're animals, Mo.
Exactly. Yeah. Now you see the legacy is still there.
Yeah.
But if you, like I said, now if you get hurt at HBCU or a small school, you might go to, the county hospital and your career's over. You know what I'm saying? We've seen this all the time. You saw that in Friday Night Lights, with the movie with Booby Daniels, tore his knee up, career over. I'm just saying. And then the third one is the $100 handshake kind of thing, which I laid out, the under, give you money under the board.
Right.
And recently, just to cap this all off, Brett Favre, he was leaning on politicians to build his daughter's volleyball team a $4 million volleyball stadium.
Yeah, but he's Brett Favre, so it's okay.
Right. You know what I'm saying? But Deion Sanders, all of a sudden, and it was like no harm, no foul. So I'm just showing you, when you start coming in and being effective, like Deion was, he would start to get top recruits. It's kind of, and I had to say this I'll wait to save that. You got to get rid of him. And what I mean, get rid of him is, a lot of people say, did Deion sell out? Did Deion sell out? I say no, Deion was bought off. Let's listen to clip 40, and then I'll explain to you what I mean by that.
Deion Sanders. So I wasn't really paying attention, and then the social media blew up. People are no longer friends anymore. There's a lot of arguments on social media.
Good thing it happened after Thanksgiving. That would have
been awkward. I know. Forget about politics.
I know.
So Deion Sanders named head coach for the University of Colorado after coaching at HBCU Jackson State. Some people have been critical. They felt like it's disloyal. But other people are like, don't count his money.
That's right.
Right?
Now let my man get ahead in the world. And you know what? Disloyal, he only revived a moribund program there.
Right.
Brought all kinds of attention to the SWAC, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, otherwise called the SWAC. And
HBCUs in general.
Well, yes.
Everybody benefited from the glare of the spotlight that he was under. Not only did he do a phenomenal job winning 2 consecutive SWAC titles, they played in the championship game
the bowl game coming up, I think it's December the 17th. He said he is going to finish out the deal. Hey, look, he never said he was there to stay for an eternity. The two issues, one, because the HBCUs have been so overlooked since the NFL rated it of all of its awesome talent decades ago, he now has brought new attention there. That's a good thing. They've all benefited. But I love Deion's speech when he was talking to his players. He made the point that, hey, in the coaching profession, you are either shown the door or the few times that it happens, you can walk out on your own.
True.
So he's got other things he wants to accomplish, and everybody's going to benefit.
Is this ESPN or TMZ?
This was CBS. This was like Good Morning, one of those morning shows. You know what I'm saying? Like, the main morning show, whatever they have over at CBS.
Yeah, with Gail Shepard.
Because that's Jim Brown speaking. Not the Jim, James Brown, excuse me, not Jim Brown. But yeah, so when he said, I'm leaving and going to University of Colorado, a predominantly white institution or white school, a lot of people were upset with Deion.
Sure.
And rightfully so, because in my opinion, you set the standard that I'm here to build a highway. You know what I'm saying? And I'm here. And we got to be honest. Now is where we get to be honest. You know what I'm saying? About the whole, we always been honest, but brutally honest. He set the standard that he was going to be this change, you know what I'm saying, agent of change to come in and use his celebrity to draw kids and money to Jackson State and, all of that. And then after 3 or 4...
Yeah, it was only 2 years or something he was there, right?
Right. I think 3 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, well, I wouldn't know.
Right. Well, I'm not sure myself. I think it was 3 years. But here's the thing. Jackson State lets you be prime. You know what I'm saying? If you go to Alabama, you're going to be prime, but within our parameters. They gave him carte blanche, you know what I'm saying, to be and whoever do whatever he want to, run the program how he wanted to. And a lot of other schools didn't want to let Deion Sanders coach their school because they were like, he didn't have a college degree and all of this. So the HBCU gave you your chance. And then you came in with all this Messiah talk, so you can't be frustrated with people because they expect you to live up to your expectations. Now, on the other hand, Jackson State didn't take care of Deion or the school, and Jackson State is down there, you know what I'm saying, in Mississippi, where they have the Jackson, Mississippi, where they don't even have clean water. You know what I'm saying? Like, he had to cut the grass himself. There was, like I said, couldn't pay him. But this is, like I said, I'm kind of torn because on one hand, I can see it both ways. You set the standard that you didn't live up to, but I understand who Deion Sanders really is from following him most of my life, watching him I'm watching his business moves. So, that's the weird part about it. And it's like, we can never have nothing unless we start building it ourselves. And people are like, well, that's a far-fetched dream. Not to me. Now we got to have a little more story time. I went to 3 colleges, right? First, my parents went to Appalachian State University. That's where they graduated from. And the only reason they went there because they went back to school in their late 20s, early 30s. And that was the only place that had apartments on campus in the 80s, even like actual apartments that was near where they grew up at. So I grew up on a white campus, and they were even poking and proud of me then. You know what I'm saying? Because I was like, I went to school on campus. Wow. And it was like, I remember being at an Apple II computer and like, oh, look, you know what I'm saying? Our black kid could work a computer, you know what I'm saying? And that kind of thing. I mean, like looking backwards, you could kind of tell, not saying a negative way, but they show interest in me, you know what I'm saying? Of course, because I was this black face in an all white class. So my parents graduated from there. Both my brothers went there and graduated from there. Here comes my turn. And I really didn't want to go. I really didn't want to go at all. I wanted to go to a black school.
Right.
But it was like torn because it's like, do you go where your parents graduate and your brother, you know what I'm saying, keep the family tradition? Or do you go what you want to do? And I went there 1 year and I would come to school on Monday and leave on Thursday. That's how I had my classes set up. And I would be back home Thursday night. Because it was just, I was a fish out of water.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It just didn't work for me. So then I go and I told my mom I'm not going back to school. Like right before it was time to go back to school, I'm not going back to school.
Out comes the slipper.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Nah, she's like, you going to school somewhere. That's exactly what she told you. She's like, so then I go to UNCCU, North Carolina Central University, the ones that beat Jackson State recently and in the championship game. And I go there for a year, you know what I'm saying, as you going to school somewhere option, and then I end up at North Carolina A&T State University. You know, and I'll just say it like this. I think every black kid needs to experience that. To be in that kind of nurturing environment. And the weird part about it, on campus is nurturing, but the problem is they build it in low income real estate around it. Mm-hmm. So you get this weird thing like you're on campus and you're doing your thing, and if you go one block over, you might get robbed. And that's the reality. And that's right. Deion Sanders got robbed, you know what I'm saying, down at Jackson State. So I'm laying all this out to say, you know what I'm saying, this is why this show was important for me, because I could kind of see it both ways. But going back to App State, they had a football team, and they were kind of rinky-dink when they first started out. But they ended up beating one of the biggest schools in college football, Michigan, University of Michigan. And that shows you if it's continual growth and building, you could get to that level. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not set where you start off at. You know what I'm saying? It's
of course, everything's possible.
But a lot of people believe, you know what I'm saying, go for the fast buck. You know, that kind of thing, you know. And it's that talented Tim kind of thing, and you're going to hear it in the next set of clips. So, did he make the wrong or right decision? Would you want to say something? Like I said, I'm doing a lot of talking because, you know what I mean? This is a personal show to me.
Sure. Well, all the shows are personal.
Right.
I was just saying, like, you certainly didn't choose the fast buck doing a podcast, was what I was thinking.
No, I mean, because like it's the same thing. It's
exactly.
Me and you talk about this all the time. Like, I could easily go and hold myself out, you know what I'm saying, to either side, left or right. And, you know what I'm saying, as long as I use their talking points, I could do all right. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, no, autonomy is huge for me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's a real problem that Deion's going to face in Colorado. And I honestly believe, well, I'll save that for when we get to the set of clips, but autonomy is huge for me. And I think this is the best option. The same thing with not taking a jab. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
right on.
Autonomy is huge to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's that's the only way you can be a man, if you're autonomous.
I agree.
All right, enough with story time with Mo. Let's go ahead and get back into 41.
Why can't Deion Sanders just choose to be with who he wants to be?
He can go take whatever job he wants, but when you come into the first job and sell the idea that you are going to be the savior of HBCUs and you are going to raise the playing field, not just for Jackson State, but for everybody else, and you're going to do it because God told you to do it.
He said that.
Yeah, he said that. He explicitly said that God sent him to do this.
Oh, no.
So then when you leave, yeah, people are going to ask questions about what exactly it was. Now, I don't go into the sellout place necessarily, but I do think, he's the monorail salesman from The Simpsons. He went in, he sold the big dream. Now, if you paid any attention, you knew the dream he was selling wasn't possible. It was not an achievable one that he had, but he sold it and he got people to believe it, and then he chucked the deuce and left.
So you know Shannon Sharp, right?
Yes.
So and you've heard his comments.
Yes.
I'm sure. I want to play them for our audience because Shannon Sharp has a sort of a rising tide lifts all boats. If he did it for Jackson State, then maybe that helped the entire HBCU. Let's play this and I want your response to it.
Okay, that's interesting. Couple things there. I think,
go ahead.
Well, it is probably a good lesson that, if you're going to say God sent me to do something, people are going to expect some big things. That's not exactly how it works. But, people will, okay, well, if that's the case, and then the minute you decide to do something else, which God could have told them as well, then no, then that doesn't compute. So that's always a risk to do that.
Mm-hmm. And it taps into the psyche of waiting for a Messiah.
Yeah.
It's a rampant thought. Two things I want to address in that one clip. One, it's a rampant thought, and that we're waiting on the Messiah. You know what I'm saying? Who's the next MLK? Who's the next Malcolm X? Bruh, you be the man in your house for your children.
Right.
I'll do the same. You know what I'm saying? And we'll have continual improvement. Not waiting on somebody to carry us to the promised land like Moses. And that's what Kanye was kind of tapping into, you know what I'm saying, as well. With that, you know what I'm saying, I'm here, and I'm like Moses kind of thing. Excuse me, yay. I got to stop doing that. But you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Because it's like calling Muhammad Ali Cassius Clay. I don't want to be disrespectful, but it's just a muscle memory thing. But, and then the other thing is this what's his name? the other guy talking, I know his name. I can't think of it.
In the clip?
I can't think. It's Bomani Jones, I believe it is. This downward thinking like, oh, it's an impossible feat. How? I mean, this is the thing like, oh, when you say this is the kind of downward thinking that we had to face. It's like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Oh, you know, that's impossible. Nothing's impossible. You put your will to it and belief in it. But that's the kind of thing like he should have been sold out. That's what I'm hearing. Like he should have went straight past go and collected his $200. And this is a justification. And I'm gonna tell you this hit at home with a lot of the sportscasters because it's like what you were saying about the podcast. It's like, why don't you start your own podcast? Why don't you go to YouTube and start your own channel? Why you out here working for ESPN? You see what I'm saying? But they don't because of that mentality. You know, so they're saying Deion a sellout by working for ESPN / Disney. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all know the history of Disney, but it's like, whoa, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, hello,
it was weird. It was weird. You know what I'm saying? It's just weird that he should strike out on his own, but y'all won't.
Well, I mean, this is mainstream media. You know, what do you expect from him?
I was going to say, that wouldn't be an expectation. I was going to say to be at least fair. I mean, like, y'all are working for big organizations and companies.
Sure.
So, well, like I said, go ahead.
The media builds up. The media breaks down. The media facilitates a comeback. It's the way it always goes.
And we stopped at 41 or 42.
42 is up next.
Okay, let's go ahead and get into 40. Sorry about that. Let's go ahead and get into 42.
Deion did something that very few coaches are able to do. He leveraged his relationships. Skip, no football team had more uniforms than Jackson State except the University of Oregon. Under Armour, every single week, they got new helmets. They got new unis. He did this with Walmart. He took $150,000 of his salary and helped finish building the facilities. He did. He leveraged his relationship with American Airlines. He brought eyes to HBCUs, Skip. There wasn't nobody talking about HBCUs, especially now. They're talking about, they're on television. That's because of him. He gave you a blueprint. Now follow the blueprint.
He's saying basically mission accomplished. What do you think?
Well, I mean, part of it, and I love Shannon to death, part of where I disagree with him is so much of that was singular to Deion Sanders. Like, we do have to admit that he is the charismatic individual. Like, just because Deion could do it doesn't mean that everybody else can do it. That's the first part. The second thing, they're going to play in the Celebration Bowl, I believe, next week in Atlanta against the champions of the MEAC. They played in that bowl game last year. South Carolina State blew their doors off in that game. Do you know the head coach at South Carolina State? Can you name a single player at South Carolina State? I can't. It brought attention to Deion. It brought attention to Jackson State. You weren't going to bring attention to all these other schools in the time period that he was there. Like, if he was really going to accomplish that, that's a 10-year program, at least.
You're saying he had to stay.
Yeah.
All right, so once again, that negative thinking.
Oh, yeah.
One thing, though, is the uniforms. A point I want to make on that is that only difference between D1 and D3 HBCU and these, you know what I'm saying, these different levels of football is the cameras, is the uniforms. You know what I'm saying? Like,
the show element.
Right. You can shoot it a certain way. I mean, because like when HBCU, you got like one stationary camera, you know what I'm saying, at the 50-yard line, and then you got maybe a couple on the sidelines.
100%. It's like Elvis performing in a circus tent. I mean, you need the whole kit and caboodle to make it the spectacle that football is.
Right, and a lot of that is the uniforms,
sure,
and the cameras. You know, we've seen this. You know, so that's one thing. And he did lay down the blueprint because he could have easily. The blueprint is bring in celebrity coaches. I don't care if they can coach football or lick or not. You know what I'm saying? I want Jerome Bettis and all these legends walking up and down the HBCU sidelines as the draw. And then your staff be, you know what I'm saying, highly trained. But you're the draw. You know what I'm saying? You are, that's what Deion, not to take away from his football knowledge, but I'm saying you're the ambassador for your school.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You going out doing the press runs and whatever like that. Now, one of the things I want to talk about is one of his supporters was Walmart. Walmart used Deion to push the vaccine heavy. heavy.
It is.
Nobody's going to talk like this because they either going to be pro-Prime or anti. Look, I think Prime did a good thing. I think he should have stayed longer if his goal was to build that highway. But if you want to take his talents elsewhere, I'm all for it too. Because one thing is his son played for him, and his son's a quarterback. And if he wants his son to go to a pro, go to the pros, he got to go play against, at bigger, not at bigger school, but schools that get more attention, right? Mm-hmm. That's the thing. But Walmart, they were pushing the vaccine heavy at Jackson State. Deion had blood clots in his toes and lost 2 of his toes.
When?
Right after the vaccine was starting being pushed.
Crap.
Nobody, and when they fact checked it too, for you people saying he had a long history of injuries, I'm like, no. Whenever they fact check something, that means something stinks. So I had to be honest with you, like, all money ain't good money.
Do you think that was a part of his decision to leave?
I don't know, but I'm going to say this. He should have factored in thinking about the decision where he's going to Colorado, how altitude, because we know how altitude plays in.
That'll mess with you. Yep, for sure.
Can we get some value prayer for Deion? You know what I'm saying? Prime, because I don't know if he factored that in or not, but yeah. So that I'm just want to lay that out there. And just one final point. The reason why I say I don't think he sold out, I think he was bought off. He's going to one of the coldest, no pun intended, whitest places there is, University of Colorado. Having a black coach for them is nothing new. They had 2 or 3 before him. So it's nothing spectacular in that case. What it is Nike has a long, lucrative relationship with Colorado. Mm-hmm. I think this was a buy Deion off so he doesn't become the change agent that he wanted to do, to start saying, oh, we can start going to HBCUs, because what people don't understand is in college is where you meet your agent. In college is where you meet your lawyer. And for these dudes are financial epicenters, if that's the word. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, it's a serious industry. I mean, that's obvious.
Right. And college is where you meet your wife. You know what I'm saying? We got to factor it in there too. When they bring these black kids to these schools, that's higher chance for them to meet a white girlfriend. Mm-hmm. So all this plays into it. So I'm just saying, like, I think it was a high level decision to say, you heard Nick Saban, look, he already took one player, 5-star player from us. You want to let this keep going? Do you want to go back to the Bear Bryant age? And that's real. You're saying that's real. That's a reality. So, anything else you want to add to it? I mean, I know I said a lot. I know I talked a lot, but
I'm enjoying it because this is not my territory, obviously.
Right.
But I like it, and I'm actually thinking I should pay more attention to this. This might be fun, this football thing.
And all you got to do is watch. You don't got to watch the games. Just watch the sports news. I mean, like the sports media, because that's what they argue about all day, every day. You know what I'm saying? These different facets of the game, and how they play out in real life. So, got the last clip, 43. Let's go ahead and get into the backlash.
60 Minutes profiled him just like a month or 2 ago. And it was on that program. He said, I believe that God called me collect and I had to accept the charges. And then he said this. Let's play it.
It's a lot of folks sit back with Twitter fingers and talk about what they're going to do. And I wanted to go do it.
Do what?
Change lives. Change the perspective of HBCU football. Make everyone step up to the plate and do what's right by these kids.
Didn't he do that at least by starting it? And now, as Shannon was saying, is it up to others to carry it forward?
I mean, if he can go find another Deion Sanders. Right? Like, that's the thing of this, is that if you're talking about establishing something long term, right? Something that is sustainable, the idea, he got it started, now you go do it.
Aren't you making his blueprint argument? Because there are others who are in the NFL or former NFL players who are charismatic.
Who could do it.
And who could step into
Deion
other
Sanders
HBCUs.
has spent the last 35 years telling us there ain't but one Deion Sanders. And now he's telling us go find somebody else to do what Deion Sanders does. You can't have this both ways. I don't judge him for taking the job at Colorado, they probably increased his salary by something like 15 times, right? I totally get that. It all makes sense. But what he did was something that college coaches do all the time, which is you have to sell people 4-year, 10-year plans when your plan is always 1 year at a time. That's the only way that you could really pull that off. And so he came in and he sold a long-term vision for what was going on at Jackson State, but his goals and ambitions were always to be a Power 5 head coach. My take has always been he went to Jackson State primarily because he wanted to be a head coach, but didn't want to ever be anybody's assistant coach. So we had to find somebody that would give him a job and make him a head coach, and so he could have that on his resume, and then he could take that to try to get the job that he actually wanted.
Question. Amongst your football watching buddies, is there dissent about him? People differing opinions?
It's 50-50. I mean, that's a, you know what I'm saying, just a straw poll kind of thing, but it's go get the bag. And one half is go get the bag, and it's like other half is like Deion let us down. And that's why I'm sitting in the middle. Like, I can understand with his language and he used, and why you get the misconception that he was going to be a messiah, because that's what he sold. But on the other hand, everybody wants to be the best in their profession. You know what I'm saying?
I like what what that one commentator said. It's like you sell your 5 or 10 year plan, but you've always got a 1 year plan for yourself. And that's true, because if you suck, then you're out after a year.
Right. And that's the thing about college football is, and especially, they'll sign you to a 4-year deal. You know what I'm saying? But they'll have you gone in a year or two if you lose bad enough. And the fun, I'm glad you said that, because it reminded me of something. Colorado don't even know how they're going to pay Deion. They came out and said, we don't have the money just yet.
What?
Yes. Look it up. Look it up. Yes. They came out and said, we don't know how we're going to pay him.
No
That's
way.
why I said this is because you have Nike backing you. Nike does not want to lose that it's an established route. It's like natural resources, like you talk about pipelines. You know what I'm saying? And they actually use that language in college sports, pipelines.
Yeah.
You don't want to upset the current pipeline with a competitor. You know, like you. That's what the Middle East war you always talk about was about, the pipelines.
Right. Yeah.
This is the same thing. Nike don't want to have to deal with HBCUs, and they're happy with dealing with Alabama and all the established schools. So they'll say, okay, what's Deion number? 5 million? Oh yeah, his son can come here and play. Da 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 da. You know what I'm saying? A quarterback, whatever. You know what I'm saying? He can run it however he wants to run it.
Yeah, 5.5 million. Colorado admits we don't have the money yet. Hello, Nike, come help.
Exactly. Exactly.
In fact, that's an open call right there. That's basically, hey, Nike, I don't know, man. Adidas, you guys interested? I hear you got rid of that Yay Cat. You know, this sounds like it wouldn't just have to be Nike. Anybody can come in and do it now.
Right. In which I have to look back at my people and say, y'all dropped the ball. Deion Sanders is supposed to be coaching for Howard University, one of the preeminent HBCUs right now. Instead of Jay-Z being a 0.1% owner,
right? You
could be a chain. And I'm not spending nobody else's money. You know what I'm saying? Don't take me wrong. But if you're talking about solutions, y'all should go in and build the Sean Carter athletic facility. You know what I'm saying? On Howard and Sean Diddy Combs. You know what I'm saying? Athletic department, and down in wherever.
Beyonce basketball court. Yeah, it's all kinds of cool stuff we can do.
Exactly. Because guess what? That would tip the scale. But they know what's up. And they know they can't upset the apple cart. Like, that's part of being the boule. You can't bring about real change. You know what I'm saying? You have to bring about, acceptable change. And that's all I got to say about that. But it's just like, it was a fascinating. And to think, the Jerry Jones and the Deion Sanders story was going parallel.
Almost at the same time. At
the same time.
Insane. Well, you have confirmed all my belief about professional sports. That's for sure. And given me more insight into how it works. In America, I'm sure it's the same in all sports to a degree, but man, we are unique, aren't we? We're unique how we abuse race for everything.
It's the greatest mechanism for mind control.
Well, for people who made it to the end here of this episode of Moe Factz with Adam Curry, your mind is clear. You're not controlled. You've got some shielding now. as usual, and we hope to bring a lot more of that in the coming year in 2023. And Mo, I really appreciate what you do every single time on this podcast. I really love doing it with you, brother.
I mean, I appreciate every second we record together, Adam, because it's a wonderful time. But as I always say, pay attention to everything, and the truth will reveal itself.
And we will see everybody back here next year, right here on Moe Factz with Adam Curry, episode 89, coming up in January. Make sure you stay tuned to the socials when we announce it. Mo, man, have a great and very happy new year. We'll talk to you in 2023, brother.
All right, same to you, Adam.
Everybody else, see you soon on Moe Factz with Adam Curry.